Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in here from Murder Church. Appreciate it. Yes, running a little bit late. Had a special presentation for you here today. We're doing the Patricia Krenwinkel 1993 Manson Family Parole Hearings. We're about to jump into this. Thank you all again. Please share this out. Let people know that you're hanging out. Hit that like. Helps us out in the algorithm. About to come at you. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are, Murder Church on the air. We've done it. We're here. We've made it. Hope everyone had a good weekend. What's going on? Yeah, we're doing a little bit of a special here today, looking at Patricia Krenwinkel, who again was part of the Manson family. I'm sure everybody, I'd imagine people that are familiar with the Manson family story are familiar with Patricia Krenwinkel. Alligator Ashley coming through and showing off her 1 month membership, though. Look at that. Hold on, let me fix that. Let me show that off for you. Got to put that in my OBS here real quick. Hell yeah. 1 month? You kidding me? Is that shit gonna work or not? There it is. Boom. Guys, look, I've officially been chilling with you as a member for a whole month. Wow. That is amazing. That's awesome as hell. 1 month. That's awesome. Absolutely unbelievable. And my favorite name on YouTube. I've said it many times. Alligator Ashley. Love that. Yeah, I've got a big day today. Please, also, guys, I want to just show this off real quick. Today, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, I have episode 2 of the Idaho series that I'm working on dropping. Please, guys, please be there to check this out. This is before the Super Bowl. Doesn't the Super Bowl start at 6? Check this out. Come in. It's 7.5 minutes long. It's not that long. I've got a trailer here to show you guys real quick. Just want to show you guys this trailer super duper quick. But yeah, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, world premiere. I'll be in the chat chatting, hanging out. Hopefully you guys will be as well.
The identity of the 911 caller and the 911 call have not been released.
We are now learning there were other friends in the house when police arrived.
Part of the investigation.
It's part of our investigation still.
Breaking news out of Moscow, Idaho.
I'm going to play this again. I didn't have this correct. I had it set up for the last thing I was watching. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second.
In the last hour, police specifically addressed
the identity of the 911 caller and the 911 call have not been released.
We are now learning there were other friends in the house when police arrived.
Part of the investigation.
It's part of our investigation still.
Breaking news out of Moscow, Idaho. Within the last hour, police specifically addressed questions about the surviving roommates and a man seen in a video with 2 of the 4 murdered U of I students.
Hello. Hi. Welcome back.
Boom. So yeah, please come and check out. Please support me on that. Again, I'm going to be continuing down this Idaho 4 road. That's how we started out here on Publicly Buzzed. So, oh yeah. Yeah, I'm actually, while you're doing that, I'm glad you said that, Jay. And hey, what's going on, brother? So what I'm going to be doing while we're hanging out watching this Parole parole hearing today. What I'm going to do is I've already started exporting it from Premiere, and then I'm going to start uploading it to YouTube, and then I should have a link by the end of the stream. So yes, sir. Thank you, dude. And the top live chat, I literally always forget that. Jay's the man. I don't know how he always remembers that one now. That's awesome. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much. We're going to jump in here on this. I did want to read something real quick here, just a little bit of how Krenwinkel got in this spot. Of course, meeting Manson in the late 60s. I think 68 is actually when they met, if I'm not mistaken. No, 67. Damn, yeah. They met in 67 and then headed to San Francisco with him. She was a part of the big bus tour that went around the United States with the Manson family. But Krenwinkel was a participant. Get this right in front of me so I can freaking just read it. Was a participant in the murders on August 9th, 1969, again at CeeLo Drive, home of Sharon Tate. I'm sure everyone is familiar with this. One of the most famous true crime stories of all time. And her husband at the time, Roman Polanski. After stabbing Abigail Folger, Krenwinkel went back inside and summoned Tex Watson, again another Manson family member who was also stabbed Folger. During her time, Krenwinkel said, "I stabbed her and I kept stabbing her." When asked how it felt, Krenwinkel replied, "Nothing. I mean, what is there to describe? It was just there. It was right." Krenwinkel participated willingly in more murders the following night. She recounted during her December 29, 2016 parole hearing the events of the night of August 10, 1969, along with Manson, Watson, Atkins, Clem Grogan, Leslie Van Houten, and Linda Kasabian. She went to the home of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, where she, Watson, and Van Houten murdered the couple. And it was very vicious. When later questioned, of course, the Sharon Tate one was very vicious as well. Horrible murders. When later questioned, she claimed the only thing going through her mind at the time was, now he won't be sending any of his children off to war. Before hitchhiking back to Spawn Ranch, the trio stayed a while in the LaBianca home, eating food, showering, and playing with LaBianca's two dogs. So yeah, this is an interesting, I'm going to jump right in here. Again, this is not super duper long. It's over 2 hours. We're going to jump in here. Hopefully people watched the first special I ever did with the Manson family, which was, of course, of Charles Manson. So we're going to jump in here. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Holy shit, I am. Katrina Hetherington. Welcome to Buzzed and Confused. Let's go. And also I got to do the bells all over the place this morning. Welcome in here.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Love that, Katrina. Hell yeah. Welcome in here. Love seeing new members. Oh shit, and Jay gifted out a membership. Missed that. Carrie28 picking it up. Let's go. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Wow.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Another welcome to the party, pal. Absolutely amazing. Love you guys. Thank you so much. The best community here. The best community between me, Jay, Bob, Joe. We have the best freaking crew. Unbelievable. Shannon. Okay, we have what's going on right now here between us is unbelievable. And we're killing it. I'm not afraid to say that. The true crime industry is changing, and I think it's for the good because a lot of these beautiful folks. Let's jump right in here, guys. Thank you very much. Beers in the chat also. Forgot that. Holy shit. I've got to do the freaking dancing. You were definitely in the right place if you just danced. I've got to do the bells, though. This is for Viv. I see Vivian hanging out.
This place is dead anyway, man.
Hit the wrong one. We start Murder Church with this right here, my friends. Gotta start it with the bells. Gotta start it with the bells. Only way to start Murder Church. I do need to do one thing in here. Again, I'm all over the place today. You're going to see me fixing stuff in real time, which you actually do all the time. So it's nothing new. New folks are like, what? Usually this is already set up. Nope. I'll do that shit in real time. Hold on. I think we're good and ready to rock and roll. Make sure her sound is on so we can hear this. And then I will be in the background just for a second. I'm still here, of course. But yeah, I'm going to be getting the video ready and that link for today at 5. Again, 5 p.m. Eastern time, guys. I'm going to keep plugging it. I'm a plug machine.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, this is a subsequent parole consideration hearing for Patricia Krenwinkel, CDC number W08314. The date of today's hearing is 12/29/93. We're located at CIW Boardroom. The prisoner was received on 4/28/71 from the County of Los Angeles for murder in the first degree. 7 counts merged into one for the purpose of sentencing. As to count numbers 1 through 7, and conspiracy to commit murder 182.1 PC. As to count number 8, state offense, Los Angeles County case number A253156. Prisoner having received a term of life with a minimum eligible parole date of 2/16/1977. What we're going to do at this time, I know you've been through this several times. What we're going to do at this time is we're going to establish voice identification. And I'm going to start with myself. I'm going to state my name and spell my last name. Then we're going to go to my left. And eventually it's going to come around to you. And if you'd be kind enough, please also state your CDC number. Okay? My name is Tom Giaquinto, Giaquinto, Commissioner Board of Prison Terms.
Carol Bentley, Bentley, Commissioner Board of Prison Terms.
Manny Guadarrama, Guaderrama, Commissioner Board of Prison Terms.
Stephen Kay, Deputy District Attorney, Los Angeles County.
Patricia Tate, Tate, Sharon Tate's sister.
Barbara Jackson Gray.
And Sharon Tate's sister is always, man, she shows up every fucking time one of these people try to get out on parole. She's not having it.
Who serves as representative, CIW, JACK, SON, hyphen GRAY.
Jenny Cardenas, CRDNAS. I'm a reporter with the Press on Our Front.
Officer Simone, SLOAN Security.
Denise Schreiner, ABC News, SCHREINER.
John Sheriff, SHARAF. Ted Hutchings for ABC News.
Sam Pacer, PAINTER, ABC.
Wendy Putnam Park, PUTNAM PARK, attorney representing Ms. Krenwinkel.
Patricia Krenwinkel, KRENWINKEL. My number is 8314.
Okay, the purpose of today's hearing is to again consider your suitability for parole and arriving at a decision. We will consider the commitment offenses, your prior criminality and social history, as well as your behavior assessment commitment. We have reviewed your central file and prior transcripts. And we will be utilizing those to conduct today's hearings. I am going to incorporate by reference from the decision of the hearing held on 8/11/82, pages 2 through 5. Any objections, counsel?
No objections, but I do have some initial objections on the record prior to the hearing beginning.
Okay. What we're going to do, and just to kind of remind you how this proceeds, I'm going to be chairing this hearing, and I'm going to be talking about the life crime and your prior criminality, if there is any, and social factors prior to incarceration. Then we're going to go to Commissioner Bentley, and she's going to be discussing your activity and your conduct since you've been incarcerated. Okay. Commissioner Guadarrama is going to discuss your parole plans. The people of Los Angeles are represented by the Deputy District Attorney, who will be given an opportunity to ask questions via the chair and to make a closing statement. As you, of course, you're represented by counsel today, and she'll be given an opportunity to ask you questions and make a closing statement. And then I'm going to ask you at the end if you have any statement that you'd like to make regarding your suitability. One of the victims next to kin is also present today. And at the very last, she'll be given an opportunity to make a statement as regards your suitability. Okay? The law on the Board of Prison Terms rules.
Could you imagine being in the same room? I don't care how long it's been. This is 22 years later, 23 years later, in the same room with someone that killed your sister. No fucking way, dude. Which she's there doing the right thing, right? She can't go in there and acting like a crazy person. It's not going to help anything at all, but wow, that'd be difficult.
States you are to be denied parole date if you're released for posing unreasonable risk to others. There are certain rights that you are afforded, those being timely notice and the right to review your C file and the right to present relevant documents. I would ask counsel if the prisoner's rights have been met.
Those rights have been met.
Okay. Ms. Krenwinkel, you also have the right to be heard by an impartial panel. Do you personally have any objection to the composition of the panel as it is today?
No, I do not.
Counsel, any objection?
No objection.
Okay. You will receive a copy of a tentative written decision today. That decision will be effective 60 days after review. The transcript and a copy of that decision will be sent to you. You have the right to appeal
coming back.
90 days of the effective date of the decision. You're not required to discuss the matter with the panel. You're not required to admit the offenses. However, the panel does accept as true the court findings on this matter. Okay? I'll get to your objections in a second, counsel. I'm going to clear time.
Thank you.
Is there any confidential information that's going to be used today?
No, there'll be no confidential information used.
Okay, what I'm going to do is pass to your attorney a hearing checklist. This is a list of documents that we utilize to conduct a hearing so that we can determine if your attorney and the deputy district attorney are utilizing the same documents. I've marked that exhibit number 1.
Bearing in mind that this checklist is general in its reference to the reports and that type of thing, I can indicate that I have received all items as marked. There's the possibility there might be some individual items under those that I'm not aware of, but at this time it appears we have received all of the information.
Okay, thank you. Would you pass that to the deputy?
Thanks.
It's fine.
It's fine, but does that mean you have all the documents?
I assume so, yes.
Do you think you might not?
I have everything that I need.
Okay, I just want to be sure that we're working from the same set of documents. You've got a board report, is that correct?
Yes, I've gotten the board reports. The only thing, well, I have everything. I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. Is the prisoner going to be speaking with the panel today, counsel?
Yes, she is.
Okay, just prior to my swearing in the prisoner, I'll ask if there's any preliminary objections.
There are preliminary objections. Our first objection is to the news media coverage of this. We are objecting into the fact that we consider it to be, excuse me just a moment, I'm going down the list here to make sure I give you the right words. It is disruptive and distracting, and it is also producing a distracting sound, can produce distracting sound or light, and we are objecting on that basis.
Phone went off on the side here, and I've got to give a shout out right quick. Holy shit. Brooklyn coming through. Brooklyn coming through with $20. Holy shit, Brooklyn, a $20 holler. What are we doing? My God. I've got one more to, also from Friday, I think this was, I think it was Friday when it came through. Holy shit, let's go. Starting this thing off right. Huh? You know what I'm talking about.
I'm telling you like it is, baby.
Love it. Thank you so much, Brooklyn. Absolutely unbelievable, amazing, $20. And then from Friday, MJ, I don't know if she's in here right now, but $5 from MJ on Friday. And make sure if you guys see her come through here, let me know. Love you guys, man. You guys are unbelievable. Seriously.
It is my understanding that no additional lights or lighting fixtures are to be modified in the boardroom. Second objection is that we have had no notice, advance notice that the prosecutor or representative of the prosecutor's office or a next of kin of the victim would be present at the hearing. We are unaware of whether there has been specific notice to the board itself or whether the notice to the board that the prosecutor and next of kin has timely made the request. There is nothing in my files to indicate I have not received any advance notice, nor has Ms. Krenwinkel, as to their attendance.
You're saying the deputy district attorney also?
Yes.
And the next of kin?
Yes.
Okay. Any other objections?
Not at this time.
Okay, we're going to go into recess then. It's 9:10, and we'll call you back when we've considered the objections.
Thank you.
Here we are back on record. The time is 9:22. Ms. Park, in regards to your first objection regarding the news media and distracting, having that, I'm going to overrule that objection. I will let you know that prior to us conducting the proceedings or starting the proceedings this morning, we also took a hard look at the lights, and in fact, we asked that the camera crews and lighting crews change some of them. There were bigger lights in here, and it was the consensus of the panel that the lights as they're presently constituted and the
Yeah, Patricia slept with Charles Manson the first night they ever met, and I think the quote goes something like, he told her she was beautiful, and he was the first person that ever told her that, right? Basically playing on her emotions. And I believe, he would of course get runaways, people that were already coming out to California, running away from their families, or trying to make a better life, in their heads. And it was a hippie movement was huge. Everybody wanted to come to San Francisco. But yeah, Charles Manson preyed on a lot of young people, and Patricia in particular. That story, I never forget that part when again, it's not unusual for him to sleep with someone probably the first night he meets them in this setting, right? And you have these other girls that are manipulating as well. They try to get you into the group or into the cult, whatever you want to call it. But in that moment, you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen, right? And you always hear about the way the girls specifically would talk about Charlie. They talk about him in this incredibly loving light and way, and they see him almost as like a Jesus type figure. Is like it's wild.
The position of the media did not obstruct or in any way distract from the proceedings. As to your second objection, the timely notice issue on the DA, Deputy District Attorney's appearance and next of kin, the Board of Prison Terms rules, of course, does allow both parties to be present at hearings of this nature if they've received prior permission from the chairman or the executive officer, which they both did obtain. Also, there's an expectation. These folks have attended each and every hearing, prior hearing. And, in fact, a member of the institution has advised us that on December 20th, you were personally advised that they would be present. So I'm going to overrule that objection also.
If I can just comment on that, there was an oral notification on the 22nd. There was also a notification that a next of kin would be here. The name of that person was not given, and at that time it was not definite. Your comment that indicating that these people have attended every prior hearing, as far as Mr. K is correct. There has been no representative of the Tate family that has been inside this boardroom for any of Ms. Krenwinkel's prior hearings.
Okay. Your comments are noted for the record. I have overruled the objection, so we'll continue with the proceedings.
So the Tate sister, around this time to start deciding, I'm going to be at every one of these, just in case, right? Because they just made the point,
Yes.
Thank you.
Prisoner, raise your hand, and so she may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Okay. As I understand the statement of facts, on August 9th, 1969, prisoner in the company of crime partners Charles Watson, Linda Kasabian, and Susan Atkins drove to an address on Cielo Drive in Los Angeles. And thereafter, as a result of their actions, 5 individuals were murdered. At that time, the prisoner was armed with a knife, and crime partner Watson was armed with a .22 caliber revolver. Prior to entering the residence, Watson cut the telephone wires leading to the residence, and then the prisoner and crime partners climbed over a wall and entered the property. At that time, victim number 3, Steve Parent, apparently was leaving the property, and he was confronted by Watson and was shot 4 times. And then the prisoner and crime partners went into the residence, and the victim in count 2, Frykowski, was asleep on the couch. Victim in count 4, Tate, who was 8 months pregnant, was in her bedroom talking with the victim in count number 5, Jay Sebring. Victim in count 1, Abigail Folger, was in her bedroom. The victims were taken into the living room portion of the residence, where the victim, Sebring, attempted to escape and was shot by crime partner Watson. And after that, there was, I guess, a lot of confusion, people running around, is that correct?
Yes.
And that thereafter, the other victims were attacked and killed. And the one victim, Folger, ran out of the back door and she was pursued by you, is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
And you stabbed her several times?
Yes, I did.
Has she made it out to the yard itself?
Yes, she did.
And what was she doing?
She was running. She was fleeing.
Okay, was she clothed or?
Yes.
And how did you catch up to her? What happened when you caught up to her?
I stabbed her.
In the back?
Yes. She turned around.
Did she fall immediately?
Yes.
Okay. How many times did you stab her?
I have no idea.
Or more than one time?
Yes.
And then at some point in time, I would assume that she was immobilized. Did she fell down? Was she moving?
Yes.
Okay. And was she talking to you or groaning or what was she doing?
She's saying stop.
Okay. And you continued to stab her?
Yes. And then I left and went and got text.
Okay. Was she still alive when you left to get text?
Yes, she was.
Okay. But she wasn't able to move?
Yeah, what a fucking joke, dude. Teresa Watson is a reverend in prison now. What a fucking joke. Absolutely. You know, found God and fuck Tex Watson too, man. Tex Watson in a lot of ways is just as manipulative and shitty as Charles Manson, man.
Okay. And what happened when you got Tex?
He went back to where she was and he told me to go to the back house.
Okay. And what did he do?
He went over to here, and I don't know as far as what happened then because I went to the back house.
I see. Okay. It says that in total, the victims at that location suffered approximately 102 stab wounds. Did you stab any of the other victims?
No, I did not.
How about Frykowski?
No.
Did you do anything to Frykowski?
No, I did not.
Did you assist in tying him up, or?
No, I did not.
Okay. How about Tate?
No, I did not.
Did you contact Tate?
No, I did not.
Okay. And Sebring?
No, I did not.
Okay. You went to the back house at that time.
Yes.
What did you do there?
When I went to the back house, I stood there and I opened the door, and I was supposed to look and see if anybody was in there, and I just stood there and looked in.
Was anyone in there?
I never saw anyone, and I never went past the door. I just saw a lamp, and I just stood there.
So the other members, your crime partners, were in the house, and you were at the back house by yourself.
Yes.
And this was after you had stabbed Folger.
Yes.
And did you go back into the house, the main house?
Yes.
Okay, and what was taking place when you returned there?
When I went back into the house, Tex was telling Susan to write something.
Where?
I don't really know because he was just telling me to write something.
Write something?
Yes.
Did you know what he meant by that?
To put something on the walls, yes.
Somebody wrote on the wall and using one of the victims' blood the term pig, or the word pig. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you see that done?
Susan did that before she left.
Okay, did you see her do it?
Not really, no.
You didn't do that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And then at some point in time, I guess all of the victims were dead or dying. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you know if all the victims were dead at that time?
No, I did not.
Were any of them groaning or talking, or?
I don't remember hearing anything, so I don't know.
Okay. Whose decision was it to leave?
Probably a Tex, but that's interesting. I don't remember who said let's go. We were all turning around and leaving.
Okay, so
when I came in, I was turning around and going.
Okay, so at some point in time, it just there was a decision, either spoken or unspoken, to leave.
Just leaving, yes.
Okay, and the record indicates that at some point in time when you went out to the car, you indicated that you had hurt your hand because of the stabbing.
Yes, I probably said.
Did you make a comment similar to that?
Yes.
Did you, when you were stabbing Folger, you stabbed her in the back initially?
I believe so.
Did you ever stab her in the front of her body?
Yes.
Okay, so now you've left the house, and then you went back to the ranch?
Yes.
With your crime partners? And did you meet up with any other crime partners at that time?
When we got back in, Charlie was there.
And you're referring to Charles Manson?
Yes.
Okay, and he was at the ranch. Did you discuss this with him?
Yes, kind of. I mean, I didn't. I made a comment to Manson when we got back. But he was standing there waiting for Tex. He was with Nancy Goodman, and they were there. And Tex, and he started saying something. And I was getting out of the car. And I went to the back house after that.
You say you said something to Manson. What did you say?
I said they were so young.
And what did he say?
Nothing.
Did he know that you were going to go there to do that?
Yes, he had to have, since he's the person that came and got me out of the back trailer where I was with some children.
Prior to going there to the residence, is that correct? He asked you to go with your crime partners?
Yes, he came and got me out.
And imagine how young pretty much everyone in this was. Manson was older, a little bit older at the time, but, so many of these young girls, I mean, this is 1993. The event happened in 69. It's just a little bit over 20 years at this point. And at this point, she looks like, a middle-aged woman, right? Her whole fucking life, dude. And we can go further. I don't know if there's any more on Court TV. She's had many more parole hearings. Spoiler alert where this one fucking goes, but I think we already knew where it was headed. But, man, their whole lives gone, stripped because of a terrible decision. And again, whether that is, culty, brainwashing, it was done with drugs. Our lives are so fucking fragile. Like, anything can happen, man, and people end up in these terrible positions, horrible situations, and you feel for them in a way, right? You're like, fuck, man, this sucks that this happened, but at the same time, somebody else said it in there. For your actions, you do have to be held responsible for. In a lot of ways in society today, a lot of that is not happening in a lot of fucking states where you see a lot of and it's nothing compared to a lot of murders, even though we do say some wild fucking murders. I say this all the time to just people, after being in the true crime community, how many times do you see somebody that's committed murder and they're like, they got 15 years. What? 15 years? Like, I don't know.
And he told me to go and do whatever Tex said.
That's it. Did he give you any other instructions?
No, just follow whatever Tex says.
So then once you got in the vehicle and you were driving to this location, Tex was telling you what you were going to do?
No, he never said anything until we were already there.
Okay, so when you pulled up, is that the first time you knew what you were going to do?
No, not until we were already across the fence.
Okay, what did you think you were climbing over that wall for, or that fence?
Probably to rob. Because there had been this push to try to get money so that we could go out into the desert. So there had been dune buggies had been stolen, and there had been people who were like stealing money.
I see. Now, you left that residence and you went back to the ranch, and you stayed at the ranch most of that day?
Yes.
And then on that evening, apparently you left with crime partners again, this time looking for a residence that you could go to. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, the crime partners on that occasion, that was Kasabian, Watson, Grogan, Van Houten, and Manson. Is that correct?
Yes.
And who would you say was in charge of that at that time?
Manson.
Okay. So Tex Watson was there and Manson was there, but this time Watson apparently deferred to Manson in terms of leadership.
Absolutely.
Okay. And did you know where you were going at that time?
I had no idea.
Had there been a discussion about doing something similar, or?
Not until we were in the car.
Okay.
And then Manson started talking again.
And what did he tell you when you were in the car?
He was going to go out looking for someone else to kill.
And how did you accept that when he said that?
By that time, I think I was pretty numb.
What was
from the previous time?
Okay, what was the general atmosphere in the car? Was everyone looking forward to going someplace, or was there any attempt by anyone to change Manson's mind or to get out of the car?
No, I think everyone was just pretty well being very docile, and Manson as always was in control.
And what were you thinking? Did you want to leave?
As I said, I think I was completely numb.
From?
The night before.
From the previous murders?
Absolutely.
But you knew you were going to possibly commit some more murders, and that's where you were headed. And how did that impact you? Just numb?
Yeah, I think I felt very, very numb inside. I felt very, very dead inside and empty. Very frightened. And just completely kind of hollow.
Did Mr. Manson tell you why he wanted to go kill somebody else?
That night, no.
Did you know why?
It's difficult to say exactly why Manson decides to do anything, because it always changed. And he was no one ever challenged any of his ideas.
So she just said that night she felt regret, right? I just want to show this picture. This is after, of course. After, because you remember how the girls were acting, right? You remember after the X was put on the head, the Xing themselves out of society. Well, this is Patricia in the fucking middle here. Looking pretty fucking happy about it. I mean,
or his philosophy by that time at all, because I think he had a feeling that we were under attack, and that somehow or another that the ranch was endangered by people from the outside. And I think he felt at that time, he felt there was supposed to be some kind of war. We were getting prepared to go to some hole in the middle of the desert. We were trying to prepare for this revolution that was supposed to take place. And all of this was combined amidst a lot of other, ideas and whatever he had, but they would change on a daily basis. But basically that was the theme.
Who was going to declare war?
Morning, Julie Bean.
Charlie felt that that the United States was in turmoil and that it was going to blow.
Sound familiar?
And that there was going to be a revolution.
That's always how it goes, right?
Within the country.
I did read somewhere where there was some indication that the murders may have been made to look like they were committed by blacks, or to initiate some kind of a race war, or does that sound familiar?
Yes, but one of the things is that he believed that, and his biggest philosophy was, those that are on the bottom will be on top. He used the Bible to use that as part of that philosophy, where what goes around comes around. And the way he saw it from spending years in prison is, he said those people, which especially minorities who have been oppressed, would be the people to eventually take over the country, because they had been at the bottom. And it was proved by the Bible. It was proved by, all the philosophies of the world, that whoever is the bottom, whoever is the servant, will be he used those kind of tactics, and so that's how he believed it would happen.
Yeah, I like this one, Anna. Thanks for coming in here. Also, as a cult leader, Manson had to keep rising the emotional level. Them against us against them. Kind of how politics works today. No, kind of how politics has always fucking worked, except now with politics and the internet wedged together in our consciousness at all times, all day long, being intertwined with it. we are, having our emotional levels completely fucked over, and by causes, right? By different things and it's all so screwed up. Like, and everything's groupthink. Everything is always has to be mob mentality. It feels like in all walks of life now, man. I hate it. It's crazy. Like, free thinking is the way to get to a clear conscience, I think. Like, if you're being persuaded in any way, shape, or form, of course we all have great people in our lives, and conversations with loving loved ones is the best thing ever. That's what gets us through a lot of hard times. But man, like so many people go out and try to find something to actually want to believe in, right? Now you need to feel that. You need to find that for yourself. You can't just go out there and listen to what the next person on the internet has to say. They're like, listen, I've actually been like, I'm a pretty political person, honestly. I don't get into politics on here, and I never will. But I mean, through the lens of politics and seeing how easy it is to manipulate people, dude, it's so scary to watch the world work. And that leads right back to what the fuck was happening with Manson in that comment I just posted up. How easy it is. And he had, of course, a little bit, some extra stuff on his side. The Times, right? The Vietnam War was even a big effect in this. The hippie movement, people running to California, running to this area, running to a freer part of the country. Younger people in particular, a lot of runaways who had no money, who looking for anything, love in a lot of ways, and here it was. They found it, man. Like, it's so easy to manipulate, especially young people's brains, but anybody's brain, a human brain. Like, we all want to feel something. We want to feel like we're a part of something. We want that. We yearn for that. But you got to be careful out there, man. You have to be careful.
Okay, I know we digressed just a little bit, and I appreciate your candor. So now you're in the car, and this is August 10th, 1969, with the folks that I already mentioned, your crime partners. And apparently you're driving around looking for a residence or a place where you could go to kill someone, as opposed to burglarizing a house. Is that correct?
Yes.
The purpose there was to go kill someone. Okay, so ultimately, you went to the residence of a family.
Yeah, he thought that the White Album was speaking directly to him. Ain't that right, Ashley? I think, actually, that's a great point. It shows also the level of absolute madness that was happening with, when you mix what? Phantom 67 said it, LSD, right?
By the name of LaBianca.
Special times.
Okay,
Cauldron of madness.
Numbers 6 and 7 in the charges. And apparently Mr. Manson entered first?
Yes, he did.
How did he get in?
I'm not sure how he got in, to be honest. I mean, I don't know if he went through the front door, if he climbed through a window. I know he went inside.
And where were you at that time?
In the car.
And why were you staying in the car?
Because I wasn't told to do otherwise.
Okay. And did anyone else stay in the car with you?
Yes, everyone else was in the car.
So just Mr. Manson went into the house at that point in time. So then eventually you entered the house. How did that come to be?
He eventually came out and got Tex and he were in for a while. Then he came back out and he told Leslie and myself to go in.
Okay. So now the four of you are in the residence. Yourself.
Another good one by Ann. I like that. A smart person said, by keeping people's minds focused on party politics, keeps people from discussing and working on actual issues, similar to what Manson was doing. That's a good fucking point. That is I'm glad that you guys can see what's happening in this world, because yeah, we're all being manipulated. Like, it sucks, man. Like
Miss Van Houten, Tex Watson, and Charles Manson. Is that correct?
No, he never went back in after he sent us back in.
I see. Where was Grogan?
He left. He was still in the car.
In Kasabian?
In the car.
Okay. When you went into the residence, did you see the victims?
Not initially, no, because we came in through the back door.
Okay, when you first saw them, what condition were they in?
Mr. LaBianca was on the floor.
Was he tied or just laying on the floor?
He was tied.
Okay, and how about Mrs. LaBianca?
She was too. She was in the bedroom.
Okay. Then at some point in time, Rosemary LaBianca was taken into the bedroom by yourself and your crime partner. Is that correct?
She was already there.
Okay. And were you directed to that room?
Yes.
And somebody told you
Text.
There's one in the room, or?
Yes, texted.
Okay, so you went into the room with Miss Van Houten.
Yes.
And what happened?
While we were in there, Miss LaBianca had a pillowcase over her head, and we were trying to, Leslie and I were trying to tie her up, and I had a knife. I attempted to stab her.
Let's not forget the scene either, okay? Sharon Tate was pregnant. They cut the fucking baby out of her stomach, okay? This was barbarically gruesome. They treated these people unlike humans.
And eventually she was struggling, and Leslie went out of the room and got text, and he came back in, and we left the room. And on the way out, he told me to do something witchy, and then I went out into the front room, and I proceeded to get a fork and stab Mr. LaBianca, who was dead, I assume. By the time on the stomach, I wrote with his blood on the walls in the refrigerator.
Okay, let me back up just a second. When you were talking about Mrs. LaBianca, you said you attempted to stab her.
Yes.
Did you stab her? She was stabbed in the neck and the torso a number of times.
Yeah, I attempted to with a knife I had, and it really wouldn't stab her.
The knife wouldn't penetrate the body?
Not really.
How did she end up getting stabbed?
And if anybody's seen or read about that crime scene, I'm pretty sure they left the fucking fork in the buttocks of one of the victims.
Well, I know Tex went in.
I remember which one. I'd have to actually go back and read it. But
so
he was the only one that really
Are you saying that you attempted to stab her?
Yes.
You were unable to.
Right.
Was she bleeding at all?
I assume she was.
Well,
but I don't remember.
Okay, so you don't remember seeing any blood as a result of your attempts to stab her?
No, I don't.
And you called Tex in. Did your crime partner, Van Houten, stab her while you were there?
No, I don't remember seeing her do that. No.
So then Watson goes in the room and you leave the room with Van Houten.
I left. Well, I left and went out, and I don't remember where Leslie was after that.
Okay. Then you said you went into the next room and you ultimately stabbed the male, Mr. LaBianca.
Yes.
Is that correct? With a fork?
am I remembering that wrong, Anna? Susan Atkins said she considered removing the baby from Sharon, but this did not actually happen. I apologize if I spoke out of turn there. Holy shit. That was I'm throwing it out there. I remembered that. Damn. Again, I should have probably reviewed this one a little bit better. Damn, Anna. Well, thank you for clearing that up also. Damn. I apologize for that.
Yes.
What kind of a fork was it?
Was it a fork from the kitchen.
Like a regular kitchen utensil, not like a barbecue fork or anything large like that?
Yeah, it was larger than a regular, like, eating fork, yes.
Like a salad fork, a large one you might use to toss a salad? Or, okay. And how did you stab him?
I stabbed him in the stomach.
Okay. And I know that in the past they've attributed the writing of the word war on Mr. LaBianca's body to you with the use of the fork. And in the past, I believe you've denied that. Is that correct?
Yes, I don't remember doing that.
Okay.
I stabbed him with a fork. That I remember.
Okay. How many times did you stab him?
Maybe 10 times.
What was he saying?
Nothing.
Was he groaning?
No.
Okay. Now, ultimately, there were numerous words written around the inside of the residence. The word helter-skelter, the word death to all pigs, the word rise. Did you write any of those words?
I wrote them all.
You wrote them all. And did you write those with the victim's blood, or how did you write them?
Yes.
And how did you affect that? Did you just walk over to the victim and put some blood on your fingers, or?
I don't remember.
And then ultimately you left that residence and went back to the ranch, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you discuss this on the way back?
No, not really.
Okay. At any point in time, did you discuss the 7 murders?
No, not that I remember.
How about Mr. Manson? I assume he's your leader. He's out in the car. What happened when you go outside? Does he say, is it all done, or we did a good job, or you did a good job, or was there any comments?
Oh, he wasn't there.
He had left?
He had gone.
I see.
Yes. I didn't see him for a couple days after that, I don't think.
I appreciate your comments on this matter up to this point. I am going to go forward, however, with the hearing. We may come back to this area all of those issues, and I was going to make a couple comments relative to where she was born and when her parents separated and things like that. But rather than read each and every issue of the social issues into the record, unless you have an objection.
I don't. If I could have just one moment to ask Ms. Krenwinkel something.
Sure.
Thank you. At this time, that would be fine. There would be no objection to admit it into the record.
Okay, and if Ms. Krenwinkel, if the prisoner or yourself know of any real important discrepancies in the social factors that you feel should be corrected, then you can just comment on those or something like that, being I've incorporated. But I am going to just touch on some highlights in that area anyway. I just don't want to go through the whole social thing.
No, that's fine.
Okay. You were born in Los Angeles,
yes.
Right? And your parents separated when you were about 14 or 15. And your sister, you had one sister named Charlene Mann who was older than you, and ultimately she became addicted to drugs, and she died when she was about 29 years old. Is that correct?
Yes.
You lived primarily with your mother?
Yes.
Okay. And you did graduate from high school?
Yes.
From University High?
Yes.
Okay. And then, in general, you were on the road after a period of time, and ultimately you held several different jobs, and at some point in time you quit the jobs and you ended up joining up with the Manson family. And I know that's kind of a synopsis of your life prior to your incarceration, but and the other commissioners may want to ask some questions about that later on. We do know that you started taking drugs when you were about 14 or 15. I assume those were prescription drugs at that time due to your having been overweight. The doctor prescribed some Benzatrine?
Yes, that's right.
And ultimately, you started using illegal drugs.
Yes.
And you used marijuana, reds, whites, acid.
The fuck is red and white? Somebody explain. Who was in here and followed this? Back in the day, what is red and whites? Anna Licit. What is red and whites? What is that drug?
Alcohol.
Alcohol. And other marijuana derivatives, peyote and things like that.
It was the weed.
There was some indication that as a result of having used the LSD that you had taken with quote.
That's true. This is true, I believe, honestly, Ashley. Manson thought someone else lived at the house Tate was renting out. Everyone in the house that night was never the intended target. It was a music producer who wouldn't sign Manson to the record label.
A few trips.
Approximately 250 to 500.
But I don't think that they cared who was in there either, right? Like, I think anybody that would have been in that house would have died. But yeah, there was some confusion there.
And now, when you were utilizing the drugs, or at least the LSD, and that was happening when you were feeling the effects of the drug, was that primarily during the time you were with the family, or we'll call it the Manson family, with your crime partners? Or was that prior to that? Because I know you did utilize drugs prior to that to some extent, too.
Yes, prior to Mr. Manson, I used primarily alcohol and marijuana, and then LSD, which basically just came out in 1965, I think 1966. It was the first time I'd used it, about twice before I had met him. But that was really one of his choices of drugs that we used from the time that I met him forward, and then a lot of the derivatives of that, mescaline, psilocybin, and all the breakdowns that they used during that time. And then marijuana, hashish, opium. We used also speeds at time, benzodrine, methadone, things like that.
In terms of your prior record, I know that you were arrested for possession of dangerous drugs in Ukiah. That was dismissed.
Yes, it was.
And there was another arrest for grand theft auto in August of '69. There's no disposition on that, and I think that may relate to the instant case. Is that correct?
It was dismissed, too.
Yeah. And then you were arrested for this matter that you've been incarcerated for.
Right.
Okay, what we're going to do at this time is we're going to go to post-conviction factors.
I'm basically going to be focusing, since your last Board of Prison Terms hearing, which was 11/5/1990, but if there's something that you want brought out or something that I've overlooked, be sure.
I don't want to, and this is, I'm just taking a little break here just for a second. If anybody, and we're getting a little bit deeper into the Manson conversation, and if you're following this channel, you know that this will not be the last time that we'll be into this. If anyone has not read the book Chaos, and I would say check this book out. It's super fucking interesting, and this guy did like a 20-plus year deep dive on this story, Tom O'Neill, and it is fucking crazy. It is a really, really, really good book. Basically diving into a lot of the more conspiracy side of stuff. I would say check it out. At least, again, don't let it change any kind of any kind of book like that. You don't want to just go in and have an open mind is really what I'm getting at here. Because basically, I'm just going to read the little synopsis here. Charles Manson and the CIA and the Secret History of the 60s in a 2019 nonfiction book, again, written by Tim O'Neill. But he's diving into the potential possibilities that Charles Manson, could have been controlled by the CIA. And it's really interesting. And I'm not even going to give you what his conclusion is, but I would say read it just to see what his conclusion is. Because it's really well done. It's smartly done. It's not sensationalized. And any of the stuff from the story that is sensationalized, he still goes into it and then looks at it from a normal person's view or eyes, I would say. Like, he done a really good job. And I don't believe everything that's in here necessarily, and I've read a lot of the Manson stuff my whole life, basically, since high school. So, but this book is super interesting and super good. And it's a wild one, man. It's good. It's really good.
You came to CIW in April of 1971, and you've remained in this institution since then. Your classification 0, and you've never had any disciplinary crimes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Because some of the times they go on microfiche and they're not quite available to us, but you've never had any 115 or any 128A.
I haven't had any 115s.
Okay.
I don't know if I've had any 128s.
Okay, well, there's none reflected in the file, but sometimes they're back on microfiche and stuff. But that's pretty remarkable that you haven't had any disciplinary. That's unusual. I've noticed that in self-help, you've been in AA and NA for a number of years,
yes,
and in the 12-step program. When did you first join that?
I joined it after they released me from close custody in about, it was 85, 86.
Okay, all right. And do you practice the 12 steps?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What did you put in your moral inventory?
Well, when I started to go through the moral inventory, I started first by looking at all the factors and all the parts of myself that I found that were weak, and the things which had led me to make the inappropriate decisions that I had. And I began to list all the different events throughout my life.
I think he was making a movie in the UK, if I'm right there. Roman Polanski, and again, I'm not a Roman Polanski fan. If Roman Polanski sets foot in the United States, he'll be arrested because he's a rapist. He's a pedophile. But with that said, we've had this debate on here before, separating the art from the artist. There's a lot of good Roman Polanski films out there. Rosemary Baby being one of them, The Tenant being one of them. you know, he's made some good films, but man, he is an absolute piece of shit person. There's also deep, dark stuff, even with him and Sharon Tate from before her murder. Some of this, like, there's supposedly, take this with what you will, because it's never been actually found. I've never seen it, but, you know, it's part of the lore of the Manson stuff. Apparently, you know, the police, when they went and searched the home after all of this happened, in the loft or the attic or whatever you want to say, they found, like, pornos that they had made, personal pornos Roman had made with Sharon Tate. And just from what people say, it's not just like a normal sex porno type situation. It's more like abuse is what's happening. And again, I have no way to prove that or say it's right or wrong. It's just part of the story and part of the Manson allure that's been brought out over the last fucking however many years. But man, there's a lot of deep avenues that you can go down, even with just Roman Polanski, even with just Sharon Tate, and especially with Charles Manson.
And the people that I had affected throughout my life.
I was curious, you said inappropriate decisions. Wouldn't you think they were more like disastrous decisions?
Some were, but not every decision.
All right. What were some of the positive things you put in there?
Well, at first I put nothing positive. Mm-hmm. It took a long time, and it's only been recently that I've really been trying to find anything positive. And that's one of the things that I learned along the way with AA and with doing the 12 steps, is that you have to go back and start trying to fill in some of the good things. One of the problems is we don't have sponsors, so not having individual sponsors, you have to just kind of work it yourself and make it yourself. But it was going back in and starting to try to fill in some of the good points. And it's hard when I go back, like, because one of the biggest problems I ever had was being vulnerable and being naive. But at the same time, it isn't something that I want to give up forever, and I did. And so it's like trying to open it up, so when I write things down, and I have to go back and tell myself, it's okay again to be a little bit vulnerable, maybe a little bit, instead of trying to be absolutely controlling of it. I'm so frightened to give up even a part of myself for something else. And that's probably the strength of.
Yeah, I bet Sharon Tate felt kind of trapped, honestly, because I mean, she's a Hollywood movie star who's married this elite at the time, before we knew what we knew, elite Hollywood director, like the talk of the town, basically. Roman Polanski was like the guy at this point in time, probably the biggest point in his career, maybe right after even, honestly. But yeah, man. And if you get pregnant, you're kind of, especially in that time period, right? You feel like you might be stuck. And then you got to think of the eyes of the public at that point, right? Like, she probably, I don't want to leave him. And then it starts a whole nother rumor mill out there, especially in Hollywood, man. Coming through right now, Cammy Q passing the plate, $9.99. Oh, man, Cammy Q coming through. Love you, Cammy. Let's go.
This place is dead anyway, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Hold up. Hold up. Hold up.
Hold up. We out here, baby. Thank you so much, Cammy Q. Love you guys so much.
Doing any of that kind of writing, you sit and you start looking, and then you have to develop both sides and say, okay, and I've been trying to be a little more gentle with myself and trying to decide that maybe some of these things are worthwhile.
Okay. What about making amends? How did you make amends?
Well, when I try to do that, it's like on a day-by-day basis, it's trying to involve myself in those things which I feel are productive, not counterproductive, that assist others, because it's just a way of atonement, and it's a lifelong thing that you're doing, and it's a day-by-day basis. It's trying instead of, it's trying to give of myself where I can.
Wow, Roman Polanski is 90 years old and still out here, also making films in France and other countries. Only in America is where he will, if he comes back, he will be completely screwed and arrested. A lot of Hollywood actors that have gone and made films with him in other countries get a lot of flack, and as they probably should. So, I mean, he's clearly still got actual friends in Hollywood here. Oh, shit, another great film from 65, Repulsion. I just passed it by. I'm just looking through his stuff here real quick. I was trying to get to any of the information about his shittiness.
Trying to acknowledge the strengths I have, and in those strengths trying to apply them here with whatever programs that they're available to do good by.
Still has movies coming out. Last year he had a new movie coming out, dude. I think he made this one in Switzerland. Mickey Rourke was in this one. Yeah, people still go and work for Roman Polanski.
Okay. I notice your work now. You're a trainer.
Yes.
And you received exceptional work reports. What type of training are you doing?
I'm a physical fitness trainer for the women who are trained here to go to fire camp.
Here you go. That looks like on the screen. Hold on. Let me fix it. March 11th, 1977, 3 years after making Chinatown, Polanski was arrested at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel for the sexual assault of a 13-year-old Samantha Galley. Galley had modeled for Polanski during a Vogue photo shoot the previous day around the swimming pool at the Bel Air home of Jack Nicholson. Polanski was indicted on 6 counts of criminal behavior, including, and at his arraignment, he pleaded to not guilty to all charges. Many executives in Hollywood came to his defense, of course. Galley's attorney arranged, protecting their fucking money, Galley's attorney arranged a plea bargain in which 5 of the 6 charges would be dismissed, and Polanski accepted. As a result of the plea bargain, Polanski pleaded guilty to the charge of unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor and was ordered to undergo 90 days of psychiatric evaluation in California. Upon release from prison after 42 days, ooh, God, he had to spend 42 days in prison. Polanski agreed to the plea bargain, his penalty to be time served along with probation. However, he learned afterward that the judge had told some friends that he was going to disregard the plea bargain and sentence Polanski to 50 years in prison. Wow. I'll see this man never gets out of jail. He told Polanski's friend, screenwriter Howard Koch, Galley's attorney, confirmed the judge changed his mind after he met the judge in the chambers. Yeah, I'm sure he probably greased his fucking palm. I feel so passionately about this. You know, I'm a good judge. He's a decent guy. He came into the chambers. We hung out. We had a cup of coffee. You know, he exchanged $1 million. He was going to sentence Polanski rather than time served to 50 years. What the judge did, it was outrageous. He had agreed to a plea bargain and the judge had approved it. Polanski was told by his attorney that the judge could no longer be trusted and that the judge's representation was worthless. Polanski decided not to appear at his sentencing. He told the friend, producer, Dino, I've made up my mind. I'm getting out of here. On January 31st, 1978, the day before sentencing, Polanski left the country on a flight to London. That's probably when he's never returned, I guess, since 1978. On one day later, he left for France. As a French citizen, he has been protected from extradition and has lived mostly in France ever since. What a fucking piece of shit. In 1979, Polanski gave a controversial interview with the novelist Martin Amis in which, discussing the case, he said, "If I had killed somebody, I wouldn't have had so much appeal to the press, you see. But fucking, you see, the young girls, judges want to fuck young girls. Juries want to fuck young girls. No one wants to be a fucking pedophile, dude." In 1979, what was that? 1979, when he's doing this interview, he still thinks that the public opinion is fine with fucking young girls. Dude, Roman Polanski is absolute fucking trash.
So what I do is I work with the women first.
Okay, this is take 2 and Patricia.
J Money! J Money! Welcome in, brother.
Hearing W8314.
Okay.
I get the women who are first endorsed to get them to meet a physical fitness standard that they must have in order to fight fires. We have 3 fire camps that are, 2 of them are located in San Diego, 1 in Malibu. These women have to meet the fire requirement physical fitness tests in order to be able to go out and live at these camps and fight the fires, as we just had, all those massive fires. All our gals are out there doing that. And so it's...
Yeah, this is basically true. I mean, this is in like music, I mean, I know professional wrestling back that far pretty well. Hollywood, all of these forms of entertainment, you would have a lot of the times the biggest stars, the bigger stars, they would have young girls with them all the time. Young ass women. Wives. They would make these women their wives as young as 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. Crazy times.
It's a good job. We have to teach them teamwork because we work as a team, myself and the other trainers. The focus is teamwork and physical fitness, and because it's one of the few programs here that, of course, requires not only physical fitness, but you need to be able to work and get along well together, and you need to have a really good philosophy about the people you're working with, because your life relies on those other people in a fire situation.
Okay, I've also noticed that you were a clerk, too, in the recreation.
Right.
Do you do that kind of work when you're not training, or are you always training?
Oh, I still assist on that. That's how I originally went to work as a clerk for Pat Kirshner, who's a head of recreation, but she's also head of the physical fitness training program for the CDF. So I graduated from there, and also I kept watching and became more and more involved training, and then pretty soon I became a trainer.
Okay. I noticed in 1990 you received your vocational data processing. You completed that program.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And are you able to work on updating that? Because that's always changing.
Right. It's available anytime you want to go and update it. You could go back into the program and allow that.
Since your last hearing, you've been involved in American, and the Lifers Orientation, the Life Plan for Recovery, and Dr. Grimes' Psychotherapy Group. Those are some of the therapy programs. And throughout your time in the institution, because you've been involved in therapy programs. The Life Plan for Recovery, you're in AA, because that's for substance abuse, how did that enhance your...
It works on the 12-step protocol.
It does.
Also. Yes, it incorporates 12 steps, and it incorporates some other information on drugs. Okay. By and large, it's 12 steps.
And then in Dr. Grimes' Psychotherapy, are you still in that?
Yes, I am.
And is that a group therapy?
Yes, it is.
And what are you getting out of that?
Well, I've been very candid in it. It's been a very good group. I think as a whole group, we've all been discussing our crimes. We've been discussing who we are, and so have I. I mean, it's been a very good group. It's been ongoing, and it's continued, which is a little different than most. Most of the time, you can only go for 12 weeks, but because it seemed like all of us felt as a unit that we were getting somewhere to be able to discuss and feel comfortable at discussing who we are and trying to grow, trying to find a better way of dealing with all of our problems, be they with family on the outside or within the institution. The group has been maintaining as a whole, and I've really enjoyed participating in that group.
Okay. And I noticed some time ago you were taking some college courses. Did you get your college degree?
Yes, I've had my degree. They don't have any college classes here anymore.
Oh, no, I understand that. Yes. But when did you get your degree? Because I didn't see that noted.
81.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
I have my Bachelor of Science degree from Laverne. It's in a program here.
All right. And what was your major?
It's Human Services.
Okay. And then I guess I noticed that you took some college classes then after that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then since your last hearing and some of the other activities you've been involved in, back in January of '99, you were a dance consultant. Was that for a particular program?
Yes, it was just something.
Okay. And then you've been involved in the walkathons for child abuse prevention. And you have been active in the READ program, which is a tutoring program.
Yes.
Is that in the evenings?
Yes, it is.
And is that a little different than the Yes I Can program?
Oh, Yes I Can is, that's a program that you help tutor people to get their GED. READ helps people to learn how to read. Most of the skills are back from about 5th grade.
Okay, so
most of our readers are in 5th grade education.
I see. So they're not even close to getting their GED.
No,
they need your tutoring.
Right. We're just trying to develop word skills and reading skills on a very basic level.
And have you personally gotten a lot out of doing that?
Oh, I've loved doing that. And we work with the Challenger series, which is what's used on the streets right now in almost every literacy program. So you work with people and you learn a lot. It's a great series.
Okay. And then you were involved with the Labor Day barbecue and the annual Christmas, and also with the Women's Advisory Council. Are you still on that?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Okay. But you did serve as parliamentarian in '92. And then I noticed something about the outreach diversion.
Right.
What's that?
I belong to a program that speaks to youth about drug use. They come in the institution. Well, it's a program that works both ways. There are women that are allowed to go out into the community, and they go out. Those people that are doing lengthy sentences, myself, that cannot get gate passes, we meet with them up in the visiting room, and they bring normally children at risk, children that have already had some problems. Sometimes we get adults. We get, which is called PC-1000s. They're court sent to the institution. People that are already in trouble and they're trying to use this diversion program. And so what you do is you speak to them about drug use and the cost and consequences of your actions. And normally the children go anywhere from 13.
Okay. And then you were involved in the Yes I Can annual banquet. I guess you did some work on that. And then I noticed in 1993 you were also in volleyball?
Yes.
Okay. Are you still doing?
Yes, I'm still.
Okay. All right. And that's basically what I found that you've done, particularly since your last...
What the fuck? Massachusetts has the lowest minimum marriage ages with parental consent of 12 for girls and 14 for boys. That doesn't even make sense. It should be neither, but that should be flipped. Like, what that shouldn't be flipped. Like, the whole thing's garbage, but why would you let a 12-year-old girl marry anybody?
Dude. Prison term hearing, is there anything that I've overlooked or you want to bring to our attention about what you've been doing?
I'm leaving the planet now, guys. I will be gone.
I'll go now to your psych report, which was done by Dr. Klebel, and he's a senior psychologist. And I guess you again took the MMPI, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And he indicates that it describes a person who responds rather conventionally to the question, who uses her intelligence to control her rebellious past, and who has achieved a good balance in her emotional functioning. Neither given to depression or being overly active, she is able to lead a rather stable life and has developed appropriate feminine interests and guide her progress. Overall, no mental disorder is expressed in this profile, and it has been stable over the years. And under the psychological consideration, it says this interview focused mainly on the relationship inmate Krenwinkel had with Charles Manson, on her understanding of her crime, and on her present awareness of her life. It is apparent that the understanding of her role in the, quote, Manson family, unquote, has helped inmate Krenwinkel to clearly see her dependency on this manipulator and her subservient role at the time. Her improved understanding and her newly found assertiveness and activities have helped her to change her understanding of her responsibility in the shocking and horrendous criminal activity, especially as her innocent victims are concerned. And he refers to Dr. Francis's report in 1988. It described that you still tried to excuse the crime with the lifestyle of the victims. Were you at that time sort of feeling that maybe because of their lifestyle?
Well, I think I was just trying to find certain justifications because it's so terribly hard to accept exactly the horrendous acts that I've done.
Well, Dr. Klebel goes on to say you certainly do not at this.
So she has another parole hearing this year, I just read. Is that right? Did somebody just say that?
This time, and you're fully aware of your totally unwarranted and senseless crime. As a matter of fact, when describing your crime, you became emotionally involved in a manner that...
So that's actually kind of intriguing because we know Leslie got out, right? Leslie Van Houten got released. So you think that Patricia Krenwinkel's thinking, oh man, this is me. This is my time. I'm finally going to be released as a however fucking old she is. That's interesting.
Proves your remorse and understanding. Under the mental status examination, it indicates during the interview several issues became clear to Dr. Klebel. While in previous casual encounters always appeared as a person who avoided contact and tried to disappear among your fellow inmates, you now are able to present yourself on your own and as a full participant in the discussions. You were very cooperative during the interview and open about your feelings and not at all ambivalent and defensive as described in prior reports. While previously, for example, in the report by Dr. Armstrong, the feeling prevailed that there is something missing about this person, this time the impression was the opposite. It can clearly be stated that the improvement this inmate has made over the last 3 years is substantial and positively affecting your personality. Do you agree with that? Do you feel that you've come a long way in the last 3 years?
Yes, I do.
Okay. The major progress is in your ability to gain insight into yourself and in being affirmative and aware of yourself. You have learned to communicate this new understanding and present yourself in a positive, clear manner, even when you have to talk about the worst aspects of yourself, such as your involvement in the crime. From this new understanding, your expressed remorse and compassion becomes believable. There was no sign of mental disorder presented in the interview, and you appeared fully functional and able to conduct your life. You present yourself as functioning on a higher than average intellectual level, as being in control. Emotionally well balanced and having gained insight into your prior problems, you are able to function well in any social setting you're placed in. And under the general conclusions, they say that there's no significant relationship between the crime and the present diagnosis. During observation in the institution,
oh, here we go. Thanks, Ashley. Next parole hearing, I guess tentatively, could be postponed. You never know. June 19, 2024.
Especially during the last 3 years, you have significantly psychologically improved and are still improving.
Let out one of these bitches.
In a less controlled environment, you're expected to improve further. Suggested action is that you continue in your therapy and your therapeutic activities. And under parole release, it says violence potential outside a controlled setting at the time of your crime is considered to have been extreme due to your total dependency and drug addiction. At present, your violence potential is estimated to be well below average. He goes on to say, Dr. Geweldes, that the conclusion of Dr. Francis is to be repeated here, that you are a violent criminal only by history and you do not pose a threat at the present level of functioning in this setting, and it is predicted that you would not present a threat in the uncontrolled setting if released into the community at this time. It is to be added that your present functioning has further improved since these conclusions were made in 1988, so they can be restated now with a higher level of certainty. And do you have any comments you want to make on that? It's quite a favorable report from the psychologist. No. Okay. All right. I'll return to the chair.
Mr. Guerrero.
Would you share with this panel what your plans are if you were to get a parole?
Well, at present, if I was to be released, I would attempt to gain employment probably in the field of computers, since that's another large field at this point.
Where would you be
used? I would like to live out of state.
Okay, the law requires that you go back to the county.
Right. Then I would have to gain employment here until I could find work out a situation to leave the state.
Do you have any family or friends in Los Angeles?
I have 2 cousins, 2 separate cousins.
Are they willing to help you?
Yes.
Did you ask them to write letters?
No, I did not.
Did you ask anybody to write letters?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't feel that at this point that you have that a date is imminent, and I don't feel like getting their hopes up. You know, I try to be as realistic with them as possible, and those that care about me, they get very excited and emotional, and they really want to get as much support as they can. And at this point, I feel them.
That's interesting. I do find that interesting. She has cousins, she says, at this point in time, that are willing to help her if she was to be able to get out. That's interesting.
But I don't feel that it's that necessary. They have offered, and I told them I don't think that's necessary.
So you really don't have plans?
No, I haven't made anything concrete.
Okay. Do you have any money saved?
No, I don't.
Okay, you're not married, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a significant person out there that you communicate with, besides your parents?
Just friends.
Just friends?
And cousins.
Okay.
Yeah, just friends.
Anybody visit you here?
Yes, I have friends and my cousins.
Okay. How about your parents?
Well, my father comes to visit. My mother lives in Ohio, and because of her age and illness, it's impossible for her to come visit.
Okay. How often did your father come?
Now he comes approximately about every 3 months, but soon he's going to be moving to Idaho. Again, because of illness, there's someone there that will look after him, and it makes it impossible for him to get up here anymore. Someone else has to bring him due to a stroke.
Okay, you have a pay number?
Yes, I do.
How much do you make?
About $32 a month.
Does anybody else send you money?
Yes.
Who's that?
Father.
How much does he send you?
About $100 a month.
Okay. You're not able to save any money from all that?
Well, I could probably put some away a little bit.
All right, the appropriate 3042 notices went out, and those are notices that go out to agencies, individuals that have an interest in this hearing. And as a result, the district attorney is here, and also Ms. Tate. We also have a response from the police chief in Los Angeles. And he wrote a letter dated November 29, 1993. It says the Los Angeles Police Department appreciates the opportunity to again comment on the appropriateness of parole consideration for Patricia Krenwinkel. Patricia Krenwinkel was an active and willing participant in the brutal murder and mutilation of several persons in the Los Angeles area. The actions of Ms. Krenwinkel during and subsequent to these brutal murders are well documented and have been established beyond any possible doubt. To realize the brutality that has occurred and then to subsequently release a person of this kind on society is unconscionable. Again, thank you for the opportunity to respond in writing to this issue. Yours, very truly yours, Willie Williams, Chief of Police by W.O. Gartland, Captain in the Robbery Homicide Division. Then there's one other letter in here, and this is, I can't make out the name that well, but it's in support, and so I will read it. It says it has come to my attention that two ladies who are at your institution are coming up for parole in December. So I wanted to write to you and tell you how I feel about all this. Myself, I think it's about time you let them out. Their names are Leslie Van Houten and Patricia Krenwinkel. As I said in the paragraph above, I feel it's time that you let these ladies out. They have been in way too long for what they're supposed to have done. If it weren't for the famous nature for the people they ran around with 20-some years ago, I feel that they would have been let out years ago.
I don't agree with that either, dude. That's what I was talking about earlier. Like, that's what we deal with now. Just letting folks out for nothing. Like, they've been in here for 15 days. They better learn their lesson. They've learned their lesson, folks. Of course, I'm just being an asshole here.
Ms. Van Houten was out for a while and was a productive member of society until she was sent back into your system. This is very hard to read. It's kind of scratchy. It's been suggested that Ms. Van Houten didn't even murder anyone, that the only stabbing she did was after the victim was already dead. Therefore, all she did was maim a corpse. Nothing to spend half your life in prison for, wouldn't you agree? Ms. Krenwinkel has spent about half her life in prison. I think that if she did the crime you sent her in for, she has more than made up her debt to society. A person shouldn't be held guilty for hanging around with unsavory types in their younger days. If this wasn't so popular, she would have been out many years ago. Now, I don't want to tell you how to do your jobs or anything, but I feel that there is no need to keep them in prison. How many times do they have to tell you that they are sorry? They have given all these years to make up for what they did or were supposed to have done. And that's best, and I can't make out the name. Okay, those are the only two letters that we have in file, but in addition to that,
out of the entire world, we got two people out of a billions of people. Fuck off, get back to the cell, it's over.
A number of petitions. We have a letter here from the Tate family to Mr. Nielsen, who is the chairman of the Board of Prison Terms.
Excuse me, Mr. Guadarrama. I have not seen any of these letters, petitions, or anything. I was wondering if you had copies of them.
Matter of fact, we have 42,000 names.
42,000?
Were you aware that these were being circulated?
No, I have never seen anything. I've never been given any notice on this. Neither has Ms. Krenwinkel. There is nothing in my file under responses, under any of this.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a brief recess. The time is 10:15, so I'll ask that the room be cleared. The time is 20 minutes after 10.
Who are these 42,000 people? Is that how big the cult was? In 1993? Jesus, fuck.
What I embarked on was to read a letter from the Tate family. I'm not going to read it, but I am going to allow Miss Tate, if at the proper time she would like to read.
He does look like him, right here.
And also indicate what she has done in terms of the petitions. It'll be entirely up to her. With that, is there anything else that you'd like to present at this time as far as parole plans or correspondence?
No.
Okay, I'll turn back to the chair.
Okay. At this time, please, for the panel, it's an opportunity to ask any additional questions on any matter if they wish to. What was that? I did have a couple questions. In regards to the first residence that you went to, the Polanski residence, prior to leaving the ranch, you armed yourself with a knife, didn't you?
The shit out of my lip.
Okay. And when you went there, and Mr. Watson was cutting the telephone wires, you were pretty well aware of what you were going to go into the residence for, weren't you?
At the most, I wasn't sure what we were going to do until he said what we were going to do. I had no idea. Because at that point in time, like I said, we had been going and doing robberies, basically. We had been stealing things. I had no idea that.
Yeah, they called it creepy crawling. Yeah, they'd break into people's residences and steal stuff, but then they would like rearrange the furniture and shit for when people woke up the next day. Called it creepy crawling.
That's what the intention was at all.
Okay, when you
expressed.
Okay. When you say you had been doing robberies, what do you mean by robberies? Were you stealing from people, or you were stealing out of houses, or?
Well, actually, there had been a couple robberies that were done in houses. Yes.
Where the victims were present?
No.
So you went into homes where no one was present. You took some property.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. G, I hope I pronounce it correctly, Gianquinto. Just for clarification, I know you keep using the term "you were doing this," and I don't know if we're getting the "you" as a general you, the Manson family, or if Ms. Krenwinkel is responding generally or specifically, and I thought perhaps we could clarify that just a bit as to whether she as an individual did this or the Manson family as a group did that.
I think that's a valid point, counsel. Thanks. When I say you, I'm going to be referring to you specifically. Did you go into people's houses prior to the date of this murder at the Polanski residence?
No, I had not.
Okay. So when you said we were doing robberies,
as a group, I had been with Tex, and we had gotten some dune buggies out of a showcase window at a dealership.
and exclusive of that, this was the first time you were going to a house yourself?
Yes.
And when you got there, you thought that it was going to be a robbery?
Yes, I was probably under that impression because that's what had been happening prior to that.
Did you think you're going to kill anyone?
Absolutely not.
Were you the type of person that wanted to kill someone at that point in time?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so you enter the premises with your crime partners, and you see the first victim shot and killed. The victim that was leaving in the car, I believe. Why didn't you leave?
I would have never thought of leaving. I didn't know what to do. I was waiting for instructions.
Okay, Okay, so the first victim shot outside of the actual residence itself, but on the property of the residence, right? And you've seen this person mortally wounded, now you go into the residence. And apparently you displayed your knife at that point in time and actually rounded up 3 of the victims.
Yes.
Okay, and that would have been Miss Tate, Folger, and one other person. Did you take 3 people out of the bedrooms?
One of the, yeah, I think.
Kind of round them up?
Yes.
Sebring?
Yes,
okay, Sebring.
yes.
Okay. You rounded them up and brought them all into one room?
Yes.
So,
excuse me, I hate to interrupt, but
sure.
my problem is I'm hearing Mr. K over here going, and actually responding to these questions that you're asking of her. I find it somewhat distracting and would ask perhaps if the members could advise him to refrain from answering the questions himself.
Okay, I think Mr. K heard your objection, and I'm sure I'll act appropriately from here on. And
I wasn't aware that I was doing anything, but thank you for recognizing this part.
Thank you, Mr. K. Thank you, ma'am. I guess the issue here is when I first listened to what you had to say, I got the impression that you were very naive, didn't know what was going to happen there, went in, were caught up in this thing. One woman runs outside, you chase her and stab her, and then you kind of go off into the distance at the back house, and then all these other terrible things happen to everyone in the house. But actually, your role was a little bit different than that. You actually did help.
Yeah, what kind of answer is that? I was standing there waiting for instructions. How's that going to help you here?
Round up the people.
I mean, it's the truth, I guess, but Jesus fuck, man.
One side of the house. And as a matter of fact, when you rounded them up, I believe that's about the time that Miss Folger began fighting with you. She actually fought with you in the house, didn't she?
Yes, when they were trying to tie the people up, yes.
Okay. And how about Sebring? He started to...
yeah, he fought with Tex.
And then he ended up being shot at that time.
Yes.
And Folger ran outside, and that's when you pursued her after the initial fight and ended up stabbing her. And so you had already seen at this point in time 2 persons murdered, or at least mortally wounded, and you yourself had participated in an additional one where someone was laying possibly mortally wounded. She had been stabbed numerous times. And then you went to the back house. Now, what did you think at that point? 3 people were dying or dead.
Yes, and I felt, it's hard to describe because I had no idea even how to connect a thought together at that point. I had no idea what we were going to do when we went to that residence. When all the madness took place, I had absolutely there was no way to put together the kind of rational thinking because there was no rational thought in my head. I had followed the instructions as I had been told to do, as I'd been doing for a very long time. And at that point, everything was out of my control. I felt helpless. I felt hopeless to do anything. All I was doing is carrying through a macabre dance. It was horrible, and I didn't know how to stop it. And I never knew how to stop it, just like I never knew how to stop Manson all along.
Okay. At that point in time, when this was occurring, you weren't under the influence of drugs, were you?
No. But my reality had been altered from years of drug use.
Now, in reference to the LaBianca deaths, my understanding, the way you explained it, as I understood it before, was that when you went into the house, she was in the bedroom, you went in and she had a pillowcase on her head, and you attempted to stab her, couldn't, and then you went and got text, and you don't know what happened. But as I understand some of the documents related to this matter, in fact, when you went in with Miss Van Houten, she placed the pillowcase over Miss LaBianca's head. And then when you stabbed, you didn't bring a knife to that residence. You used the knife from the house, is that correct? You went into the kitchen and got a knife?
Yes.
And you went into where Mrs. LaBianca was, and you stabbed her. And in fact, you tried to stab her in the neck, and I guess you stabbed her in the collarbone so hard the knife either broke or glanced off. Is that correct? And that's when you went and got Tex Watson, because he had a bayonet.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when he came back into the room, and you were there when he started stabbing her. Is that correct?
I was leaving him because he was telling me instructions, and I was leaving him.
But you watched him stab her.
No, I don't recall that.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. The only reason that you went and got your crime partner was because you were ineffective in murdering this woman, so you got someone that could do the job properly. Okay. Any questions, Ms. Bennett?
I just have a couple. You indicated that after you stabbed Ms. Folger, how many times was that that you stabbed her?
I have no idea.
Did you call for Tex to come?
Yes.
Why was that?
I went and got him.
And why?
Because he was put in charge by Manson.
Because I felt like I needed help to complete the act. Because I couldn't do it.
Okay. So you don't think you stabbed her enough times to have killed her?
I will say I did that. I don't know, but I have always said I killed her.
Were these murders intended to instigate the revolution?
Oh, Teresa getting a membership. Thanks to Shannon Hale. Thank you, Shannon. Absolutely. Let's go. Beers in the chat. Love it. Love it.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Love it. Thank you so much. That's amazing, Shannon. And Teresa, welcome in here. It's awesome as hell.
That was not my intent because I had no idea why we were doing it. Later on, that has become something that Manson has used and said, yes.
Okay, well, when you wrote on the walls of LaBianca residence, were you directed to write those words, or were those words that...
Those were the words from the Beatles album that we had been basically listening to for months and months and months.
So nobody specifically directed you to write those particular words?
Those particular words, no.
Okay. All right. And now, you participated in 2 horrendous, violent nights. What do you think prompted it just to end right there?
I have no idea. You'd have to ask Manson.
Okay, all right. And what was your relationship with Manson?
Originally, when I met Mr. Manson, basically I fell in love with a man. I met him, and it was he and I thought I was falling in love with a man. Eventually, he started defining himself as a god. And once becoming a god, then there is not a male-female relationship as would be considered.
So initially you had an intimate relationship?
Yes.
But then it changed?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, those are the questions I have.
Mr. Guadarrama.
Yeah. In reading all the documentation, it indicated that you really lacked.
I agree with that, Anna. Yeah, I don't think that they probably would have necessarily been a danger to society, but yeah, at the end of the day, but the victim should have the last word on the release. I mean, this one's particularly horrible. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, and you can say they were, whether they were manipulated or brainwashed. There's cases like that, I'm sure, and maybe you could even have the argument that someone was being pointed in that direction, or almost their hand was being held. You could make that argument, sure, but I mean, this one, even if you go with Leslie being released and you come back to Patricia here, I mean, there's a difference even in these cases. Like, Patricia Krenwinkel was actively stabbing people, says she killed somebody, potentially.
Remorse. As a matter of fact, the day after you're watching television, a group of people commenting on the crimes. How did you feel then?
I felt empty, and I don't remember ever being there in the trailer watching that either. A lot of the memories of that period of time from even early on are not real stable, mostly because a lot of it gets intertwined with all the drug use, the hallucinations, the entire time sometimes gets blanked out. I just know that from that point on, and even before those crimes were committed, at the ranch itself, it had become very, very crazy. The situations had changed rapidly. Manson was directing orders like a general, and things were turning very, very quickly. And on that, not everything was always clear and absolutely defined. And especially throughout the years, because so much has been said by so many. Sometimes I am not sure who said what and what really happened, because there are so many accounts from everyone. So to do it, so to do complete justice, I don't have absolute recall of 25 years ago.
How do you feel now about what you've done?
It's grotesque. It's absolutely horrible. It's very difficult for me to live with the fact that I could do anything so horrible and so horrendous, because that is not who I am. That is not what I believe in. I have always felt that things should be treated with gentleness, tenderness, and love, because that's the most lacking thing that I have found in my life and in most people's lives. I've never tried to create something that was ugly, and that's what came out of me. So I try every day, the best I can, to deal with it. Every day of my life, I try to define to myself that I have a little bit of self-worth, because it is terribly difficult to deal with this on a minute-by-minute basis, because I feel terrible about it, but I cannot change it. No matter what I do, I cannot change 1 minute of my life. And as I've said before, I don't expect the board to say that I can go home. I am paying for this as best as I can. There is nothing more I can do outside of being dead to pay for this, and I know that's what you wish. But I cannot take my own life. I'm sorry.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Ms. Krenwinkel, why don't you take a second to compose yourself? Would you like some water?
Thank you.
There was some indication in prior transcripts that you're writing a novel.
No.
Is that not so?
No.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll ask the Deputy District Attorney if you have any questions of the prisoner.
No, I don't.
Okay. Ms. Park?
Just a moment.
Yes, ma'am. Questions of the prisoner, Ms. Park?
No, I don't.
Okay, closing statement, Mr. Kay.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask both attorneys, I probably will be a little bit more liberal with the counsel for the prisoner, but because of the length of this hearing, if we could as closely restrict ourselves to the issues of suitability than anything else, I'd appreciate that.
That's what my argument is directed to, suitability.
Okay, Mr. Kay.
Thank you. Members of the board, when you are considering whether or not to find Patricia Krenwinkel suitable for parole, I urge you to strongly consider what Charles Manson had to say about her. Now, Charles Manson, I think we can all agree, is a despicable human being. However, Charles Manson did live with her on a day-to-day basis over a lengthy period of time.
Excuse me, I really hate to do this to Mr. K because I realize I'm interrupting his final speech here. But it's my understanding that the prosecutor can only limit his comments to the facts that are before this board, to the facts that are in the C file. And I think outside comments from anybody, whether it was Mr. Manson or news reports or anything else, are improper for this board.
Certainly not going to talk about news reports, but these facts are in the transcripts. They have been discussed by me in the 9 previous hearings. This is no surprise to Ms. Park.
Okay. I'm going to overrule the objection. However, I am going to caution you, Mr. Kay, that I would prefer that the suitability of this prisoner be based upon the merits of what's been presented today and what is in the transcripts. And the board is well aware of prior transcripts and all of the documents relating to Ms. Krenwinkel's involvement in the Manson family and everything else. We've read all those documents, and to expedite this process, you'd be kind enough, let's try to limit it to the specific issues of suitability as we have them outlined in the rules.
Thank you. Mr. Manson said that Ms. Krenwinkel was his complete reflection, that she was more like him than any other member of the family. Now, this is kind of a scary thought, isn't it, since we know about other members of the family. Has Patricia Krenwinkel earned your vote for parole suitability due to the fact that she's stayed out of trouble in prison?
Helen just membered up. Hell yeah. Let me look at this real quick. Hold up. Got a new member, everybody. Beers in the chat. Buzz the Confused member. Helen coming through. That's what I'm talking about. Welcome to the party. Love that. Thank you very much. And Shelly going to shout out real quick. Been a while. 7 months. She's been a member for 7 months. Holy crap. That's amazing. That's what I'm talking about as well.
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
And is now, during the last 2 years, attended AA and NA classes and psychotherapy on a regular basis? I think the answer is definitely no. What she has earned is the right to still be considered as one of the most cold-blooded female murderers in American history. Has she made progress in prison, in the controlled prison setting? I think the answer to that is that she has, especially during the past 2 years when she is finally facing up to her long history of drug dependency. I attribute what she's done during the last 2 years mainly to the Board of Prison Terms and the fact that they criticized her and recommended that she attend AA and NA over the years, and now she's finally done it. Let's look at the record on that. In 1988, in the decision by the Board of Prison Terms, recommendation number 3 was to have Ms. Krenwinkel, and I quote, participate on an ongoing basis in NA or AA, as well as individual therapy that might in the near future be available in this institution. In the 1989 decision by the Board of Prison Terms, the board recommendation number 3 is to participate in self-help and therapy programming, particularly Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, or Narcotics Anonymous, NA. In the 1990 decision by the Board of Prison Terms on number 2, when you talk about the institutional behavior, and I quote, the prisoner has not participated in beneficial self-help programs such as AA, NA, and group therapy programs until recently. She has participated in AA, NA only during the past 2 years. Now here sits a woman who has been in this prison since April of 1971. She admitted to you today that she has taken 250 to 500 LSD trips. She also admitted marijuana and mescaline, speed, meth, you name it. I think she talked about it today. She was involved in 7 of the most savage murders imaginable. Murders which were bizarre, to say the least, and in which drugs played a prominent part. Now, we'll get into that later. And I agree with her that she was not on drugs at the time of the murders. Nobody the first night was on drugs the night of the murder. Watson the second night took speed to pep himself up. But there was a lot of drug taking in the formulation of the motive for these murders. But yet it's only during the last 2 years that Ms. Krenwinkel has gotten the bright idea after the board recommended it, and by the board I mean the Board of Prison Terms, after the board recommended it and criticized her for not attending AA, NA classes and psychotherapy. It was only during the last 2 years that she got the bright idea to do this. Again, let's look at the record. In 1988, in the board report, the board report points out that from 1985 to 1988, she attended only 1 session of AA-NA, from 3/22/88 to 4/26/88. The 1989 board report shows that, again, she only attended 1 session of AANA. That was from 124.89 to 228.89. As a matter of fact, in the 89 hearing before the Board of Prison Terms, she said she only attended one class because these classes had a low priority for her. In the 1990 report, it's pointed out that she did attend one group therapy session from 190 to 490, and a 12-step AANA from 1189 to 290. In the 1991 board session, as reflected in the 1993 board report, she attended 2 AANA sessions, one from 130.91 to 418.91, and the other from 9/5/91 to 11/21/91. And she did on 9/28/91 attend the Life Plan for Recovery. Well, she started then. It was an 8-week substance abuse educational program. Now, certainly in 92 and 93, she has attended on a regular basis. But I submit that Ms. Krenwinkel has a lot of hurdles in front of her, and probably the primary hurdle is dealing with her past history of drug dependency and drug abuse. And it's really only in the last 2 years that she may have gotten serious about it. And whether she is really serious about it, 2 years is not enough time.
Excuse me, sir.
Sure. Deciding the question of suitability, I'd ask the board not to forget who you're dealing with today and what she has expressed in the past about her feelings towards the crime. And I ask you to please not forget the statement that she made, which is reflected in Dr. Francis's 1988 psychiatric board report at page 4. And it's a paragraph, and I'm going to read it. I know in the current report she said she didn't mean it anymore, but this is a statement that she made after being in this prison for 18 years, just 5 years ago from the time we're at now. This paragraph, and I'm quoting, "She described the events of the offense which brought her conviction and accepted somewhat limited responsibility for it. That is, she accepted responsibility for the murder of Abigail Folger, whom she directly stabbed. But she did not accept group responsibility for the murder of 7 people of which she was a part. In addition, she is somewhat ambivalent about the person of her victim, stating that Ms. Folger, quote, could have been something more than she was, more than a drug abuser, quote unquote, and the murder, quote, may have been a tragedy. That is to say, Ms. Krenwinkel is not flooded by remorse for the senseless murders of 7 people, rationalizing that there was a heavy drug involvement and therefore a diminished social validity to the lives of these individuals." Unbelievable.
Okay, Mr. K.
Yes.
I'm sorry to break your momentum here. I really would appreciate it if, when we get to situations like that, just refer the board to the area, and we will take it into consideration during recess. Those are areas that we've read extensively.
Okay, that's I read that paragraph. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, many of the psychiatrists who examined Ms. Krenwinkel in the 1980s found that deep-seated personality disorders, emotional problems, and a high level of anger. Even though the current psychologist that examined her this time, his report is positive, overall, the weight of the psychiatric reports militates against Ms. Krenwinkel being found suitable for parole. But make no mistake about it, the main reason that Patricia Krenwinkel should be found unsuitable for parole is due to her active participation in 7 of the most vicious, brutal murders in the history of American crime. These were random murders of strangers. These are people, most of these people were innocent people literally butchered in the supposed sanctity of their own homes. And Ms. Krenwinkel, of course, was a participant on both nights of murder. Let's look a little bit at her participation. And some of what I'm going to tell you varies a little bit from what she told you today. I'm glad that, Mr. Chairman, you brought out at the end that she was armed with a knife when she left the Spawn Ranch. She was armed with a knife. They were all armed. They knew what was going to happen. This wasn't going to be a burglary or a robbery. Tex Watson had even had training classes for murder at the ranch on how to stab people, that when you stab them, you don't just stab the knife in and pull it out. You pull up on the knife because you can cause more damage. She went, the ride from Spawn Ranch in Chatsworth was an hour ride, and she had one thing on her mind during that time, and that was murder. As was brought out earlier, and I won't go into it, she saw the phone wires getting cut by Watson so that the victims couldn't call out. And she saw Stephen Parent getting shot by Watson 4 times at point-blank range when he begged for his life and promised he wouldn't tell. She was armed with a knife when she went into the house. When she got in, Frykowski was asleep on the sofa. Actually, Watson cut the screen and got in the dining room and then came around to the front door and opened the front door for Krenwinkel and Adkins. And Watson had told Kasabian to stand lookout and listen for sounds. When she got in the house, she walked in towards the bedroom area. Abigail Folger was in bed reading a novel. And then Miss Krenwinkel and Miss Adkins went to the back bedroom. Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant, was in bed. At the foot of her bed, talking to her, was her longtime friend, Jay Sebring. At knife point, Miss Krenwinkel and Susan Adkins got Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring and Abigail Folger out of their bedrooms into the living room. Once in the living room, when all of the victims were there, Sebring resisted and was shot by Watson. And then, as pointed out, pandemonium broke out. Miss Krenwinkel fought with Miss Folger to try and keep her there. Miss Folger broke free, ran out of the back of the house as Miss Krenwinkel was following her through the back of the house. Fortunately, Miss Krenwinkel put her hand on the door, and we got her fingerprint on the back door. But she followed Abigail Folger out to the front yard, all the way past the pool in the back and around to the front quite a distance, and pounced on her in the front yard and stabbed her over and over repeatedly, front and back. Abigail Folger was stabbed 28 times, and I agree with Miss Krenwinkel that at some point Tex Watson came over. Watson was stabbing Frykowski, who had made it out of the front door onto the front lawn, and Watson was stabbing Frykowski to death, and after he finished with Frykowski, he came over and participated in stabbing Folger. But it's clear that Patricia Krenwinkel inflicted most of the damage and the fatal wounds to Abigail Folger. She had no remorse for this. All she could talk about in the car on the way back was how her hand hurt from stabbing the victims. And she did use the word victim. She didn't say from stabbing the victim, but she said her hand hurt from hitting the victim's bones when she was stabbing them. That day, back at the ranch, she and Van Houten, who didn't go along on the Tate murders, and Adkins and a family girl named Barbara Hoyt watched TV news accounts of the murders. That's how much remorse that she had. She had to watch her handiwork on television over and over. Now, we know, if there's any question about remorse, we know that she didn't have any remorse because she went out the second night. And the second night, she didn't find out in the car what was going to happen. Manson actually had a meeting in the bunk room where he told the ones who were going to go out that night, including Miss Krenwinkel, that they had been too messy the first night, that they had caused too much fear and panic, and that this night he was going to go out and show them how to do it. They proceeded to drive around.
Yeah, Shelley. Yeah, YouTube needs to fix their shit. This is honest to God.
The Los Angeles County area for 4 hours, looking at random for people to murder. One time, even stopping at a congregational church in South Pasadena and looking for the minister who they were going to kill and string upside down to the cross in front of the church as St. Peter was crucified. But fortunately, it was late at night and the minister wasn't there. They stopped at a lot of places and eventually got to the LaBianca residence. Manson did go in He was the first one there. I feel that he got the drop on the LaBiancas. He was armed with a gun, and he tied them up, tied their hands behind their back, and left them on the sofa in the living room. Then Krenwinkel, Van Houten, and Watson went in the residence. Watson was armed with a bayonet. Krenwinkel and Van Houten were not armed. However, as soon as they got into the house, the first thing that Miss Krenwinkel did was go to the kitchen and get a knife for herself and a knife for Van Houten. Miss LaBianca, and the LaBiancas were nice, decent people. I mean, Mr. LaBianca was 44 years old. He was the president and chief stockholder of a small chain of markets. Mrs. LaBianca, 40 years old, had a dress shop. These people never bothered anybody. They were good, decent people, as were the people, Sharon Tate and the others at the Tate House. No reason for any of this to happen to them. Anyway, when the three of them were in, Mr. and Mrs. LaBianca were on the sofa. Now, the only thing that Manson had taken out was Mrs. LaBianca's wallet, because he wanted that to be planted in a black area so that blacks would get blamed for these murders. But Watson went up to the sofa and asked them if they had any money. Mrs. LaBianca, and he told them it was just a robbery, so not to worry. Now, Manson, when he had come out to the car, told these people that he had left a man and a woman tied up on the sofa, and that he had told them that it was just a robbery. And he said, don't cause fear and panic like you did the night before, and don't let them know that you're going to kill them. So, you know, of course they all knew that they were going to kill these people. But anyway, Mrs. LaBianca, in response to Watson, said that she had a small amount of money in a strong box. She was untied, got the strong box, came back. At that point, Krenwinkel and Van Houten took her into the bedroom. Van Houten put a pillowcase over her head. Van Houten unplugged the lamp next to the bed, wrapped the cord around Mrs. LaBianca's neck, and then pushed her down on the bed. But at that time, as Van Houten started to hold her down so that Krenwinkel could stab her, the guttural sounds of Mr. LaBianca getting stabbed to death by Tex Watson in the living room could be heard by Mrs. LaBianca, and she bolted up, got a sudden surge of energy, cried out her husband's name, grabbed for the lamp, and swung it at Van Houten. Van Houten knocked the lamp out of her hand and wrestled her down on the bed. And at that point, Krenwinkel stabbed her with such force, hitting her collarbone, that the knife blade bent. Well, at that point, it was Van Houten, not Krenwinkel, who went out in the hall, because Van Houten knew that Watson had the bayonet, and she got Watson, because she knew that he'd be able to finish off Mrs. LaBianca without the knife blade bending. He came back in, and he and Van Houten stabbed Mrs. LaBianca over and over. She was stabbed 42 times. Now, Ms. Krenwinkel wasn't finished at that point, because she, as she told you today, she went out, and the evidence of the trial was she carved the W-A-R, and war had a meaning. Everything she did had a meaning there, which she didn't go into today. She stabbed Mr. LaBianca 7 times with a carving fork. It wasn't, you know, we're talking about the length of the fork. This was a carving fork, a 2-tine carving fork. She stabbed him 7 times, so there were 14 puncture wounds in him from the carving fork. He had 12 stab wounds in addition to that. And she left the carving fork embedded in his abdomen, and there were these angry...
abdomen. I think earlier I said embedded in his butt and his buttocks, but yeah, embedded in the abdomen. I remembered that slightly incorrect.
Red welts where she carved in the letters W-A-R. And then the words that she wrote in his blood: rise over the inside, above the inside part of the front door, death to pigs on the living room wall, and helter skelter on the refrigerator. These all had great significance to Miss Krenwinkel and to the revolution. These come from the Beatles' White Album. And what the family members would do is they would sit around on LSD, and this wasn't just Manson, this was all the family members feeding him. Well, what do you hear here in the song? And they came up with the Beatles were the prophets talked about in Revelations 9 and 10 of the Bible. And the Beatles were prophesying the message to the blacks, that the blacks should rise up and kill the whites. the word rise comes from a song on the Beatles' White Album called Blackbirds. And I'm not going to sing it, so don't worry. But blackbirds singing in the dead of night, take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life you've been waiting for this moment to arise. Well, that's where rise came from, and the family thought that the blackbirds that the Beatles were talking about were the black men. And singing in the dead of night, both of the murders, both at the Tate house and the LaBianca house, were committed in the dead of night because they had to blend in with what the prophets were telling him. Now, Revelations 9 and 10 talks about 5 prophets, men with hair of women. Well, they could justify that because originally there were 5 Beatles and then one died. The death to pigs had significance. Pigs were not police officers. Remember, pig was written in Sharon Tate's blood on the front door of the Tate residence. Death to pigs in Mr. LaBianca's blood. Pigs were basically white people who had 9 to 5 jobs. And there was a song in the Beatles album called Piggies, and it talked about the piggies going out to eat with your piggy wives, clutching your forks and knives. Well, the fork, of course, was in the abdomen of Leno LaBianca, and when we got him to the coroner's office and took off the pillowcase, we found a knife embedded in his neck with the knife handle sticking out one end and the blade traversing his neck, severing a carotid artery, and part of the blade sticking out of the other side of his neck. And of course, last but not least, on the refrigerator in Mr. LaBianca's blood was Helter Skelter, which was the name of a Beatles song in the White Album, and which the family had, with Manson certainly as a leader, had given the name of the revolution. And she talked about, well, they were amassing dune buggies. Yes, they did. They had dune buggies with machine guns mounted on them. They had a gun room out there. They were preparing for war, the war that she carved in Mr. LaBianca's abdomen. And what this war was going to be was a black-white race war that was going to be ignited by these murders, blaming the murders on blacks. And the family and Manson felt that the blacks were going to win this race war, and they were going to kill all of the whites, except, of course, for the family. And the family was going to go and live in the bottomless pit. She told you today about they were going to look for a hole in the desert. Well, the hole that they were looking for was the bottomless pit, talked about in Revelations 9 and 10 of the Bible. And they were going to live in miniaturized form for 50 to 100 years in this bottomless pit, and then they would grow to the size of the 12 tribes of Israel, 144,000. And at the end of this 50 to 100 year period, since they were racist, they felt that the blacks would be too stupid to maintain the power, and so the family would come out of the bottomless pit, and immediately the blacks would run up to him and turn over all power. Now, it wasn't clear whether or not they were going to rule the world or just the United States. At least it was going to be the United States. This is absolute craziness. But these people believed in this motive enough to kill 7 innocent people. Now, after writing on the wall, she wasn't finished. She had built up such an appetite.
Yeah, I'm sure he was thinking that would probably entrance them into like believing this is the greatest thing they've ever seen. We have to have Charles Manson, right? I bet that's what he was thinking. He was envisioning, I'm going to trick everybody, right? That's all he would. Honestly, he had musical talent. I can't even say that. Like, Manson's stuff isn't complete trash if you like that folky type hippie vibe, but I bet that's exactly what he fucking thought, and I bet he was thinking, I'm going to have these people up here, I'm going to dose these executives, and they're going to fall in love with me, and then we're going to be whatever. I mean,
at the LaBianca house.
It's interesting. It's a wild fucking story. It's wild how it blends in with Hollywood, and there's a quote out there from Neil Young in one of these documentaries. Neil Young remembers Charles Manson in California, actually, and he liked Charles Manson's stuff. So Charles Manson, he blended in a little bit closer, and he was at some parties with some folks. I believe one of the Mamas and the Papas. He had some weird connections to a lot of people, but he seemed to rub almost everybody the wrong way. But Neil Young, in a documentary, is quoted as saying he liked Charles Manson's stuff.
Participating in murder and writing in blood, that she raided the LaBianca refrigerator. If you can imagine building up an appetite for that. But actually, all 3 of them took food and ate the food. Patricia Tate will go into the the current status of public concern here, but public concern doesn't diminish. As I have pointed out over the years, and as part of the record, in 1983 and 84, 352,000 people, their names and petitions were turned over to the Board of Prison Terms as being against Krenwinkel and the others being released on parole, and an additional 42,000 this year were turned over to the Board of Prison Terms. The California legislature has also spoken out on this subject. The California legislature requested that anyone who received the death penalty and then became eligible for parole because that death penalty was held unconstitutional should not receive parole. I strongly urge the board to find Patricia Krenwinkel unsuitable for parole and give her the maximum 5-year denial that is provided for in Penal Code Section 3041.52C. The fact that she has programmed well during the last 2 years does not overcome what she has done in these terrible, atrocious murders. I think that if you look at the total picture, Patricia Krenwinkel still presents an unreasonable risk of harm to society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kay. Ms. Park, closing?
Yes, thank you. I think I've heard more about Charles.
It's the best way to put it, Susan. He used drugs like a tool. They were a tool for him.
Manson, the Beatles, and the Bible here from Mr. Kay than I have about Ms. Krenwinkel, which is the purpose of this board hearing. Just one quick comment, since I happen to have these marked. I would like to take care of this right away. I will not read anything to any extent. I know you have all read the entire book, but as to the 88 report that Mr. Kay has quoted from.
You want to talk about the psych report?
The psych report from 1988 by J. Francis. The only thing I want to point out is that the final sentence in Dr. Francis' report is that she is a violent criminal only by history and does not pose a threat at her present level of functioning in this setting, and it is predicted that she would not if released into the community at this time. So in 1988, in spite of the out-of-context paragraph that Mr. Kay has read, there was still a determination by the psychologist that she was not a danger to society at that time. And that is one of the things, the major things that is to be determined here today. Also, I don't know if we've been reading exactly the same reports and files. I've gone back to one of my older files on Ms. Krenwinkel and have found other dates where she has attended AA-NA meetings other than what Mr. Kay has indicated. Back in 1989 and 1990. I don't have any of my other reports going back further than that at this time, but I'm sure I would find other reports indicating that. I also find an extensive amount of clinical or group therapy prior to the times he has indicated. And one thing that I recall from prior hearings is that a lot of times these programs are not available to inmates. A number of years ago, the group therapy was something that you had to sign up for, get on a list after you had completed the 6 or 12-week course, whatever it was. You then had to re-sign up again in order to get a place on it at a future date. The same thing with the AA-NA. CIW did not have a full-time AA-NA program. Prior to 1985, the programs were only held in the evening, the meetings for that. And if you were working evenings, obviously you were unavailable to attend AA-NA meetings. Her progress has not been in the last 2 years, and I am extremely affected by the fact that he should make such a comment, because I know as you read through the reports, you look at a progress over a period of 21 years. You look at a progress where her behavior, her actions, and her works in this institution have rated nothing other than exceptional remarks from whatever she has done in here. And that is what we are taking into consideration here. If the crime itself is something that will keep her in here for the rest of our lives,
Like Murder, She Wrote?
then please let us know now. We will end this meeting and we will go outside and take the board's determination on this. The crime itself cannot be changed. It was a horrendous crime. It has been talked about in detail here today. That can never be changed. Ms. Krenwinkel cannot change it. I can't change it. Mr. Chick K can't change it.
Love you,
Ms.
Bobby.
Tate can't change it. Nobody can. So what is the purpose then at this point? Is to say, is there something that this woman can provide to society in a safe manner? Is there any good that has come from the fact that her life was not taken? And that's the point we're starting from. I would love to sit here and just read through everything that I have read in this file over the years that I've been doing this, over the period of time that I have read the most recent updated file. Not only would you probably ask me please to keep my mouth shut because it would take forever, but it's unusual to see this type of thing to the extent where you're saying this woman has finally pulled out of a horrendous experience and is now able to give something back in her own way. Use of drugs, as we all know, can have a horrible effect on people. It can be mind controlling, and that is what has happened here. That is what happened that many years ago. We've talked about the Manson family, and in the past I've also talked about cults. For those who remember the Jim Jones affair, Jim Jones had such a power over his cult, his group of people, that he was not only able to get them to commit suicide, but also to kill their own children. This happened. This was something where a man was able to take people's minds, whatever kind of lifestyle they had come from. Most recently, we've had David Koresh, another cult leader that was able, through the use of drugs or power or the drug of religion, to control people, to control their lives, to get them to kill for him. And isn't that what happened 25 years ago with Charles Manson? In his ability to take people that were hurting for whatever reason. They were hurting because they wanted something they couldn't find. They were hurting because they were using drugs. They were feeling insecure. He knew how to take somebody and say, come with me, I'll make you feel good, I'll make you happy. And along the way, let me keep your mind under control because we're going to feed you as much drugs as we possibly can. And I will eventually, through my powers, through my personality, be able to convince you that I am the all-powerful and you will do what I say. That is something that happened 25 years ago. But that is now past. There are other victims in this case. We talk a lot about the victims and who was affected by all this. Ms. Krenwinkel's family was affected by it. Anybody's family who are presently prisoners in the various institutions, they're affected by this, they're victims. Ms. Tate's sister is a victim to the extent that she is now here today to present to you the reasons why she shouldn't come out. And what do? We keep coming back before this board. We keep coming back before the board often enough where Mr. Stephen K. can bring up all of his memories and his discussions of the horrendous crime. We have a young woman who now has to go forward with her life, except it has to stop. It has to stop every time there's a parole hearing. It has to stop every time Charles Manson is mentioned. It has to stop every time there is more media coverage on this. It has to bring back memories and hurtful, a lot of pain. So we can stop all of that by saying, has this woman progressed to a point where a date should be considered? I think it's time to do that. I think it's time to say, we will give you a date. But understand, that I think what confuses people is they all say, well, of course, then she wants to be let out tomorrow, so we'll just give her a date and she can get out January 30th, 1994. No, we accept the fact that that is not conceivable. Because even under the terms, we're looking at a minimum of 49 years, 7 years for each count, at a minimum. At that, she has a 40-year sentence at a minimum, 49-year sentence at a minimum. Of course, there are credits that one can earn. But even so, a date can be chosen. A date can be chosen where we can put an end, at least to the suffering in this case, to the suffering of people saying, let's put this on the news. Let's show more people what it was like. Perhaps some good comes of it, because by the same token, you're getting advertising for how good NAAA programs are. You're getting advertising for how horrible drugs are to a person, how drugs can turn somebody around and make them into a type of monster. That's what happens. The way things are today is not what they were in 1969, not even in 1971, in being admitted into the institution. The standards for determination of suitability go in a number of areas. One is social history. The social history is not significant to negate a parole date. She had some troubled times, but we still get back to the fact of, at an early age, of being insecure and using drugs. That seems to be the most of her social history. The past and present mental state. We understand now what the mental state was at the time. It was practically non-existent. It was controlled by another person. The mental state that we have today, as shown in the most recent psychological report, is the fact that Ms. Krenwinkel is a person that should be suitable for parole. She is not a danger to society. I would read through various parts of the report that I found extremely interesting, but I know you've read it all, so I'm going to save you the trouble of listening through to that again. But I think you probably know the points that I'm trying to make with all of this. This is not the first psychological report Ms. Krenwinkel has had that has indicated the type of recommendations we're looking at. In 1991, even the 1988 report that Mr. K referred to has all indicated her danger level was nil. The past criminal history. The only criminal history was arrest for drugs, possession of drugs, which was not a conviction, and the arrest for grand theft auto, which was not a conviction. So basically, there is no past criminal history prior to these particular acts. Just a couple of other comments. The response from LAPD. I've read that letter every year for the parole hearings. It's a form letter, and I would just like to point out only the names have changed at the top of the letter. But I'm not so sure that they have actually reviewed any of the file or the information. It's something I believe that is sent out every year. Don't let her out. That's the end of it. I would invite them first, before making such a comment as that, to come out and review this file and see what is actually happening with this person. I believe that a date is proper. As I say, unless this board determines that the crime itself should keep Ms. Krenwinkel in prison for the rest of her life, then please let's admit to that. Let's state that and say, okay, that's what the crime has done, and there are no mitigating factors to release her. But if we go along with basically what the law has indicated to us, if we go along and say, because of these other factors, because of 22 or 23 years of constant progress, it's time for her to have a date, then that is what we're asking for. And we ask for it to be based on the minimum standards, which would be 49 years. Thank you. Submit.
Thank you. Ms. Krenwinkel, did you want to make any comments regarding your suitability?
No, I have no comment.
I apologize. I did just forget one comment, because I know a lot of times people ask about parole plans, and Ms. Krenwinkel does not seem to have anything sufficiently laid out. Part of it is being honest and saying, I know I'm not going to get a date in the year 1994 or 1995, because under the rules, that is not a possibility at this point in time. I think the most difficult thing is for somebody to say, well, I can come in and I can show you this person will give me a job, but that person is not going to hold that job until such a date as when she would get released at the end of the term. So on that basis, I can only indicate to you that Ms. Krenwinkel and I have reviewed the options. The fact that she has a great deal of family and friend support. There are options available to her on the outside. There is employment available to her. There is support available to her. There is a place to live available to her. But I don't believe, as we have discussed, this is the time to really say, this is the specific job. We can only tell you that that will happen. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll also afford you one more opportunity in case there was something that jogged your mind. Okay. At this time, we'll go to the next of kin, Ms. Tate Ford. Is that correct? Okay. Ma'am, would you like to make any comments regarding the suitability of the prisoner?
Yes, I would. First of all, it's very confusing to me to sit here and listen to her say that she was not capable then of doing what she did, and then to sit and listen to a psychological report saying that she's not, that potentially, you know, that she'd be fine out there. Well, she said herself that she didn't think it was in her then. I don't want any chances. I don't trust her. I don't trust any of these people. I don't want them out. I think, as her attorney said, I think their crimes are bad enough that, yes, they should stay in prison for the rest of their lives. Like my sister will stay in her grave for the rest of time, and her baby, and Abigail Folger. I'm sorry. I remember, you know, I feel like she's lost, like she has no memory of what happened that night and what she did. And she didn't know him. I knew him. I knew Gibby. Does she remember what they looked like? Does she remember when she led my sister down the hallway? What she looked like? She doesn't hardly remember what she did. And I want to put some faces and feelings. I mean, I feel like she's just so blank of Gibby, you know, her beautiful black hair. Did she ever bother to even look at these people? Or she was so bloodthirsty that she just went out and did and was willing to participate, obviously, in everything that she did do? I've seen the pictures of the aftermath of what she did and the rest of these prisoners did to my sister, to Gibby, to Jay, to Wojciech, to the kid out in the car. And there's no face with this story. Well, I remember my sister's face, and I remember her belly that stuck out to here, and I remember Gibby and Wojciech and Jay, and they were wonderful people. And she didn't know my sister. Tex, Manson, Atkins, none of these people knew my sister or any of the other victims up at the house. And nothing can be done about it, absolutely nothing, except for my sister and Gibby and all of them paid with their lives. And I think that she should pay with her life in prison. And there should be no question about it. I get countless letters from people people are afraid of them. They will always be afraid of them because they were easily led. They were led by Charles Manson. I don't want to take chances that she's going to get out there. I don't care if she's 68 or 102. I don't want to take a chance on any of these people getting out at any age and being able to be led again like they were once by some wild, crazy maniac. And I think most people out there aren't willing to take that chance either. We don't want to see these people out. Their crimes were so heinous that they should all be in prison for the rest of their life. I don't want them out to make more victims, for them to fall prey on what they fell to with Charlie Manson and this whole cult thing. And her crime was, yes, absolutely bad enough to stay in prison for the rest of her life, and I hope that's exactly what happens. It's caused my family much, much, much pain. It will go on through, when my mom's passed away now, it will go through me. What she did will affect down generations and generations and generations, the big ripple effect, you know, and it's a terrible thing to have to live with. I realize that she has to live with it too, but she seems so blank about it. It was such a loss to my family. My sister didn't deserve that when she led her down the hallway to her death. Gibby didn't deserve it when they went in and stabbing him over and over and over again. But she couldn't get enough. I don't understand these people. I don't understand why we even put them up for parole. I don't know why we sit here. But that's her right, and it's as my right to come in here and speak my mind, and I am thankful for that. And that's pretty much my view on all this, that she can't be trusted. Oh, and I'm sorry. Yeah, I have been collecting petitions, and people have been very kind to me and writing a lot of letters and giving a lot of thoughts on this, the situations of all these parole hearings with the 5 murders. And so I put out a letter, kind of a generic letter, but telling people a little bit. And anyway, I collected 42,000 signatures, and I've been doing this for about a year, and I plan to keep doing it. I think it's good for everybody to know, if you thumb through some of the letters, to read how afraid people are of them. And so I put together this letter, and I'll just go through it very quickly. It states that I'm the sister of Sharon Tate, and that we have all along been collecting a lot of signatures. Previous to the ones that I've collected, there was 350,000 signatures that my mom had worked on, and talked about my mom's passing last year in 1992. In 1993, 4 of the 5 murders will come up for parole. I dearly need your help by getting as many signatures as you can. These signatures are instrumental in keeping these people from getting early release. As you may not know, these murderers were on death row until a death penalty was overturned by the state of California. Their early release would cause great fear for my family as well as society. The Tate family will continue this fight, and we ask for your help once again. And I know I have been threatened by the sisses, as they called themselves, that said, "So sorry about your beautiful sis, but when the Manson sisses get out of prison, we're going to do worse to you." I don't know where this came from. It came through the mail, and it could be a joke. I don't know. I'm not willing to take any chances. And I don't think the free world out there wants to take any chances on her either. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you you very much. We will be on recess at this time. It's 11:25, and we'll ask that everyone clear of the room, and we'll call you back when we have reached a decision. Thank you.
Okay, there is a part 2 of this. It should go right into it. It's not long. It's 8 minutes. Back with the decision.
Okay, we are back on record. It's 11:47, and it's 11:47. Ms. Krenwinkel, the panel has reviewed all the information received from the public and relied on the following circumstances and concluded that you're not suitable for parole. And would pose an unreasonable risk of danger to society and a threat to public safety if released from prison. The offenses were carried out in an especially cruel and callous manner with a callous disregard for the life and suffering of another, and in a dispassionate and calculated manner. Multiple victims were attacked and killed in separate incidents. The victims were abused, defiled, and mutilated during the offenses. The murder of the victims of counts numbers 1 through 5 did not deter the prisoner and crime partners from committing 2 additional murders, specifically counts 6 and 7. These conclusions are drawn from the statement of facts wherein the prisoner and her crime partners went to the residence of the victims 1 through 5. The crime partner cut the telephone wires, and the prisoner and crime partners climbed over a fence and confronted the first victim, victim number 3, who was leaving the residence, and the crime partner shot that victim to death. Thereafter, the prisoner and crime partners entered the residence and murdered victims 1, 2, 4, and 5. The victims suffered 102 stab wounds and several gunshots. One of the prisoner's crime partners wrote the word pig on the front door with the blood of one of the victims. The following day, the prisoner and crime partners drove around the Los Angeles area and randomly chose a residence to enter for the sole purpose of killing the victims. Prisoner and crime partners effected entrance into the residence and subsequently bound the 2 victims and then repeatedly stabbed the victims to death. The prisoner personally stabbed one victim with a fork, attempted to stab the second victim with a knife. The prisoner crime partners wrote words on the residence walls such as "Rise, Death to all pigs, and Helter Skelter." Total stab wounds of these accumulated to all the murders was 156 stab wounds. Several of the victims were shot. All were beaten, tortured, and some of the victims. One of the victims was 8 months pregnant. The prisoner has an unstable social history, which includes drug use since the age of 15, including LSD, benzodrine, and other narcotics, including marijuana. Parents separated when the prisoner was about 14. The prisoner abused alcohol from the age of 15. And as a result of some traumatic romantic relationships at an early age, the prisoner felt betrayed and untrusting of everyone at that time in her life. She characterizes herself, at least in the past, as having been very unhappy in her childhood. The prisoner has not sufficiently participated in beneficial self-help and therapy programs. The prisoner needs to continue therapy in order to face, discuss, understand, and cope with stress in a non-destructive manner. Until further progress is made, the prisoner continues to be unpredictable and a threat to others. The prisoner should be commended for having good work reports. She has done a lot of programming, participation in AA and NA. I think the district attorney characterized some of your participation in AA and NA as having attended one session. But in fact, those sessions were periods of time where there were 12 individual meetings in all of those periods of time. And there were literally, I know you've gone to 50 to 100 AA or NA meetings at least. For which you should be commended for your participation at trying to work through your drug problem, 12-step program. And you've been involved in a lot of different groups, Life Plan for Recovery, CODA, group psychotherapy. You were a volunteer for the Women's Advisory Council, and literacy programs, Children at Risk Walkathon, the READ program, Project Interchange, Yes I Can. You've obtained, you participated in vocational data processing. However, these positive aspects of her behavior do not outweigh the factors of unsuitability. In addition to factors bearing upon unsuitability, there has been voiced strong opposition by the District Attorney's Office and the Los Angeles Police Department. And the next of kin of one of the victims, Sharon Marie Polanski, has voiced strong opposition to the granting of the date. The prisoner is denied parole for 3 years. The hearing panel finds that the prisoner has been convicted of more than one offense which involves the taking of a life. To wit, that in fact the prisoner and crime partners were responsible for the murders of 7 individuals on 2 separate dates. The panel further finds that it's not reasonable to expect that parole would be granted at a hearing during the next 3 years. Specific reasons for this finding are as follows. The prisoner committed the offense in an especially cruel and callous manner. Specifically, she and several crime partners stabbed to death or shot 7 victims on 2 separate dates at 2 separate locations. The prisoner having personally been responsible for the stabbing death of at least 1 person at the first location and having stabbed 2 victims at the second location, both of which died as a result of stab wounds. The prisoner has not sufficiently completed necessary programming, which is essential to her adjustment and needs additional time to gain such programming. She must continue to participate in a therapy group. The panel recommends that the prisoner remain disciplinary-free, work towards remain disciplinary-free, continue to upgrade vocationally and educationally, continue to participate in available self-help and therapy programs. And that ends the formal reading of the decision. Here's your copy of the decision. Ms. Krenwinkel, I don't really believe you came in here expecting a date today, and I think, that was kind of obvious. The board could have denied you for 5 years, or we could have granted you parole, or somewhere in between that. And this is what we've chosen to do, a 3-year denial. The crimes were just terrible, as you well know. People have told you that, and I think to some degree you've said that yourself. 7 humans have died as a result of the actions of yourself and others. And so the board has to seriously consider the offense in and of itself. And counsel for the prisoner at one point said, if that's going to be the issue, maybe we'll just leave right now. Well, the board has to look at that as a major factor in consideration for suitability. But of course, we have to consider the other issues as they relate to suitability. And the prisoner has programmed much better than the majority of prisoners that we see. I personally was troubled by a couple things that occurred during the questioning about the life crime, and it seemed to me that at some point in time you tended to try to mitigate your role in the 2 scenes, and that's why I came back to it and I tried to bring you back to exactly what you did at those scenes. I don't know that you did that purposely, or if it's just a matter of that's your recollection and maybe will have a better recollection of the events and your participation with continued therapy. So I think the psychological aspects of this were a major consideration also. Anything else, Ms. Bentley?
No, good luck to you.
Mr. Guatemala? Okay, that ends this hearing. It is 11:55. Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Get back to your cell. Get back to your cell.
Thank you.
So, this is 1993, and she's about to have another parole hearing in 2024. So, if that tells you anything. And it's going to go further. I like the Manson parole hearings. There's actually a lot in here. So, anytime I need to take a little break from maybe something like next week, I want to have Bob on here to do the closings for the Jack Kevorkian trial that we're watching. We're about to wind down on that one. And Bob, of course, today's the freaking Super Bowl. I'm also hoping the Super Bowl does not mess up. 5 p.m. Eastern time today, okay? Dropping. It's a premiere. I'm going to be in the chat. That's part of our investigation, Idaho 4, the series, episode 2, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Going to be live in the chat. Please come and hang out. I'm going to play the trailer here for you just real quick. I'm on the wrong thing. Boom.
The identity of the 911 caller.
Let me fix this real quick. But yeah, if you haven't seen episode 1, go check that out as well, please. These are going to be continuing for quite some time. I am putting the work in on these, folks. Get this so you can see it here.
The identity of the 911 caller and the 911 call have not been released.
We are now learning there were other friends in the house when police arrived.
Part of the investigation.
It's part of our investigation still.
Breaking news out of Moscow, Idaho. Within the last hour, police specifically addressed questions about the surviving roommates and a man seen in a video with 2 of the 4 murdered U of I students.
Hello. Welcome back.
And if you know how episode 1 ended, we're right on cue right there. So please come and hang out. Again, episode 2 right here. I think this stream is actually going to drop you guys right into there. So when you get there, please hit the like and please come back. 5, help get it in the algorithm. I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to be promoting all day on Twitter. All right, no shame in my game, baby. Again, love you guys so much. You've made this episode of Murder Church absolutely amazing. I've got coffee in hand for the first time. Starting to drink some coffee, and I'm actually kind of digging it. I'm also wired the fuck up. Woo! Love you guys, seriously. Feral Friday was insane. Also, I want to shout out everyone that was in there hanging out hard on Friday night. Wow, we had an absolute amazing time. But yeah, you're going to portal. That's right, Mandy. Right into, again, my premiere today. That's part of our investigation. Idaho 4, the series, episode 2. I'm going to try to keep them pumping every 2 weeks. You know, cannot promise that because life is hectic. But that's where we're at right now, baby. So, hell yeah, love you guys so much. I'm going to send you there right now. Have a great Sunday. And, yeah, do this before the Super Bowl, right? We got time before the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl probably starts about 6 o'clock or so. I'm actually going to watch the Super Bowl. I don't even watch football, but I usually do watch the Super Bowl because I love spectacles. I love big events, and you got to check out these commercials, right? Big entertainment fan over here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sending you over there. Please, when you get there, hit that like, share it out, let people know. I'll see you back here on this channel, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Let's go. I love you guys. Let's get out of here.